Chapter 283. Jingwan's granduncle Luo Peisong. Although he wasn't a professor at Kaming Academy, and didn't stay there for long, he still had a small courtyard in Kaming Academy. It was really small with only 3 rooms. The rest of the space was about the same size as his room. The 3 rooms, one for study, one for receiving guests, and one for sleeping. Of course, the bedroom was divided into the inner and outer rooms. The outer rooms were for the people who took care of him. Usually, they were disciples or servants sent by disciples. In short, there was no need to worry about him lacking people. For example, the person leading Jingwan, and the others was Luo Peisong's last disciple. He was taken in 3 years ago, and had been by Luo Peisong's side for 3 years. He also came from a family with hundreds of years of history, although his family didn't have a high-ranking official like Luo Peishan. But overall, they were much stronger than the Luo family. After all, the Luo family could only be considered as a branch of Luo Peishan. Because he was the youngest son in the family, he didn't have to worry about his parents not having anyone to be filial to. On the other hand, he didn't feel any urgency to continue the family line. His family requested it, and he agreed, so he stayed by Luo Peisong's side. Speaking of which, Jingwan did not know that Li Hongyuan actually knew this person. He was one of the mainstays of the imperial court when Li Hongyuan was in power in his previous life. Because of Li Hongyuan himself, he preferred to use young talents. Therefore, the imperial court tended to be younger, unlike the current aging trend. Li Hongyuan was a tyrant, but he was impeccable when it came to governing. Moreover, he didn't stick to one type of talent. As long as he took a liking to someone's talent, not to mention jumping 3 levels, he could even let you reach the heavens in a single step. One day, you might be living in poverty, the next day, you might be an extremely powerful official, holding the power of life and death. Of course, this was only an exception. Even so, it was still an opportunity for young people. Many people had great ambitions and lofty aspirations. This person was now a high scholar, and had made a name for himself when he was young. However, he gradually fell into silence, until 2 years later, when he participated in the imperial examinations with the Luo brothers. Not only was he a high scholar in the imperial examinations, he was also the top scholar in the imperial examinations. For a period of time, he was in the limelight. Furthermore, because he didn't have a wife, and didn't even have a fiancé, he was chased by countless high-ranking officials and nobles, all of whom wanted him as their son-in-law. His surname was Jiang, and his given name was Wanli. This name was rather simple and crude. Jingwan jokingly asked him if his elder brother was still 100 miles away. In the end, he said that he was more than that. 1, 2, 3, all of them were accounted for. Jingwan wanted to ask if his parents had a grudge against the first few children. After all, they were from a big family, a family of literature and etiquette. Do you need to put more effort into naming things? Moreover, the later ones were thousands of miles, while the earlier ones were 1 to 3 miles. Just because they were born early, they deserved to be unlucky? Jingwan asked about her granduncle's situation. After all, only the 2 elders of the Luo family knew about his situation, and they probably only spoke a few words. He was not a young man anymore. How could she not worry about him when he was away all year round? Moreover, Jingwan could count the number of times she had seen him. However, to some extent, their relationship at that time was actually much better than that of her biological grandfather Luo Peishan. At that time, Luo Peishan's mind was elsewhere, and he did not seem to be easy to get close to. This granduncle was different. Perhaps it was because he did not have his own descendants, but he treated his elder brother's descendants well. As for Jingwan, because of her relationship with Madame Luo, he loved her as well as her crow. When Madame Luo first got married, Luo Peisong was in the rebellious period. Perhaps it was because his elder brother took care of him, but he was the kind of person who matured late. It was a headache for his parents, so they directly threw him to their eldest son, who was very responsible. At that time, Luo Peishan had just taken office, and did not have the time to take care of him. Therefore, this rebellious son could become a famous scholar in the world today. Luo Peisong was afraid of his eldest sister-in-law, but he also admired her. Jingwan spent more time with Madame Luo, so he could not see her every time when he came back. Perhaps because Jingwan was just concerned about her elders, Li Hongyuan did not go crazy. When Jingwan saw Luo Peisong, he was playing chess with a doctor from the academy. They had not seen each other for several years, but he had not changed much. He was in good spirits, and his eyes were not cloudy. Perhaps it was because he was away all year round, but he was also darker than ordinary old men. Although the courtyard was small, it was well decorated. It could be seen that it was taken care of carefully on weekdays. It was not neglected because of the owner's absence. As the saying goes, don't speak while watching a chess game. Before the game ended, no one spoke. Jingwan was not proficient in chess, but she could see that her granduncle was at a disadvantage. However, looking at the carefree look on the old man's face, he did not care at all. Luo Peishan stroked his beard and raised his head to look at Jingwan. Little girl, you've already grown so big. Time really doesn't spare anyone. I see that granduncle is still the same as before. He is in good health, Jingwan said with a smile. You little girl, your mouth is still so sweet. Luo Peishan nodded slightly, with a hint of indulgence, but also a little helplessness. Not only Jiang Wanli, but also the doctor opposite him was a little surprised. They knew that although Luo Peisong was not difficult to get along with, he was not easy to get close to. He also had some little quirks. It was rare to see him smile all day long. He was completely different from the old fox Luo Peishan, who mingled in the officialdom. They did not think that there was such a side to him. You are already married. You are not a little girl. Jingwan was still smiling. Don't say that you are married. Even if you gave birth to a child, in this old man's eyes, you are still a little girl. Come, come, come. Help granduncle see if this game can be saved. Granduncle, you are making things difficult for me. My chess skills are absolutely average, but... Jingwan pushed Li Hongyuan out. Look for your grandniece's son-in-law. Luo Peisong seemed to have just noticed that there was such a big living person. His eyes wandered around Li Hongyuan's face before he slowly got up. The old doctor opposite him also got up. This commoner greets Jin Wangya. How could Li Hongyuan not understand? This was clearly showing that he did not want to see him. This was quite normal, for those who knew his bad reputation, but did not know anything else. As long as they sincerely treated Jingwan well, there probably would not be two who would want to see him. If they really wanted to see him, then he would really be unhappy. Therefore, there was no joy or anger on his face as he indifferently returned the greeting. Old sir is too polite. Luo Peisong's heart flashed with astonishment. This seemed to be different from what he had expected. Jingwan was the younger generation that he liked. When she got married, although he could not rush back, it was still very easy for him to understand this grandniece's son-in-law. After all, he had so many disciples and grand-disciples, it was still very easy to inquire about them. But the result that he got was simply terrible. Because of this, he even sent a letter to his elder brother, scolding the elder brother that he had always respected. However, his elder brother's reply was ambiguous, and the words were not clear. He felt that there was something strange from it. Then he thought about how much his eldest sister-in-law treasured this girl. Perhaps the matter was not so bad. But after all, it was His Majesty's imperial edict. Even if he did not agree, it was impossible. Therefore he temporarily reserved his attitude. Now it seemed that the former was more likely. Luo Peisong stroked his beard. This girl has never talked big. Since she recommended you, she must have some skills. If you win this game, the rest will be easy to talk about. If you lose this game, if he lost, then it was hard to say what would happen. Li Hongyuan glanced at Jingwan. Jingwan looked back at him with a smile. Do your best. Li Hongyuan faintly raised his eyebrows. Did his wife mean that there was no need to be polite? Since it was his wife's instruction, then sorry, don't blame him for not being lenient. Li Hongyuan did not sit on Luo Peisong's seat. He just picked up a chess piece and placed it on the chessboard. The professor on the other side did not have any objections. He placed his chess piece very quickly, looking very confident. The others became bystanders. In the beginning, the white chess piece was still at a disadvantage. However, when Li Hongyuan placed a chess piece, the game was suddenly reversed. Almost everyone looked at Li Hongyuan in disbelief. This person had actually started to set up a trap from the moment he placed his first piece. Not only that, he even led his opponent into the trap step by step without realizing it. This was not just taking one step and looking 3 steps ahead. It was simply taking one step and looking 10 steps ahead. It was so exquisite. When they looked at Li Hongyuan again, it was a bit like looking at a monster. The old professor seemed unwilling to give up and continued. Li Hongyuan did not hold back. He completely did not know what it meant to respect the old and love the young. He killed the old professor without leaving a single piece of armor behind. The consequences of his last struggle seemed to have become a little worse. The old professor stared at the chessboard for a moment before slowly opening his mouth. Young people nowadays are really amazing. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. He did not know if he was angry or if he had been hit too hard. He did not wait for Luo Peisong and the others to respond. He stood up and left. Jingwan secretly pinched Li Hongyuan. Humble. Does he know what humility is? Li Hongyuan did not bat an eyelid, as if he did not feel the pain at all. He only gave Jingwan a rather innocent look when no one was looking. Jingwan inexplicably understood his meaning. She was so angry that her teeth itched, and she wanted to bite him viciously. Only then did Luo Peisong retract his attention from the chessboard and look at Li Hongyuan seriously. I have to say that this commoner has a whole new level of respect for your highness. However, it is better to leave a way out. Not only do you leave a way out for others, you also leave a way out for yourself. After all, this way out is the escape route of others, and it could also be your escape route. Just now I benefited from old teacher's teachings. You said it first, so this prince did not dare to lose. Therefore this prince did his best. Li Hongyuan said humbly. The corner of Luo Peisong's mouth twitched. So he did it on purpose just now? Just because I have a problem with him? Such vengeance for the smallest grievance was truly the style of the living king of hell. Moreover, should I thank him for using such a gentle method, and not as simple and crude as he did in the capital? Last, this man is too handsome. No matter how you look at him, he is not reliable. Moreover, this man is vicious and treacherous. He does things without leaving any leeway. So don't foolishly believe everything he says. Otherwise, you will only be fooled by him without knowing it. Luo Peisong said sincerely and earnestly to Jingwan. Li Hongyuan's face instantly darkened. For the sake of Wanwan and her family, as long as they were sincere about her, he could reluctantly tolerate them. However, if they tried to sow discord between them, he would immediately classify them as rivals in love and get rid of them quickly. He would destroy them in seconds. Jingwan looked at him and knew that he seemed to have been stepped on again. She hurriedly pulled him and stood in front of him. In the end, Granduncle was also an old man. How could he bear the anger of the living king of hell? Granduncle, you are wrong. I don't know whether Yuan is reliable or not to others, but to me, he is absolutely reliable. He is an indomitable man. Even if he wants to play tricks on me, there is no malice. He will never target me with his vicious methods. This has nothing to do with whether he is handsome or not. Moreover, no matter how handsome he is still benefiting me. Therefore, you can say anything about him, but you can't sow discord between us. Luo Peisong's gaze landed on Jingwan, then on Li Hongyuan, whose face was overflowing with spring. He repeated this a few times. Well, even if he had never experienced love, he could tell that the two of them were as good as the same person. This man, who was said to be a playboy and lustful, had placed this girl at the top of his heart. He was afraid that she would fall when he held her in his hands, and afraid that she would melt when he held her in his mouth. He did everything as he pleased, but when it came to this girl, if he said anything wrong, he would definitely lose his face. Looking at one girl's posture, if he made a mistake, she was the kind of person who would make a move at any time. Well, he worried for nothing. It was his elder brother's reply. Everything else was not clear, but this point made him feel at ease. Okay. In broad daylight, you are pulling and pulling. What a scandal. You are deliberately trying to provoke this lonely old man, right? Jingwan coughed dryly. Only then did she notice that rather than saying that she was blocking someone, It was better to say that someone took the opportunity to take her into his arms. She took a step forward and broke away. Look at what granduncle said. It is you who is not willing to marry. If you were willing even now, that teenage girl would be happy to throw herself into your arms. If you want me to say, as long as you agree, maybe tomorrow I will have a granduncle who is younger than me. Don't you think so? You lass after getting married. You really don't know how to write the word reserved anymore. You even dare to tease your own granduncle. Is there anyone who talks like you? Do you think I am old enough to harm teenage girls? If I wanted to marry a wife, I would have done so decades ago. Back then, your granduncle was also handsome and elegant. The number of girls who liked me could line up from the north gate to the south gate of the city. I didn't have such thoughts at all. I didn't have such thoughts in the past, and I definitely won't now. You can forget about this mouth of yours in front of your own family, but you should restrain yourself outside. Yes, yes, yes. Granduncle is the most handsome. You were handsome when you were young, and you are still handsome when you are old. You lass, is this the main point? Then he looked at Li Hongyuan, whose face was dark, and his mood suddenly became quite good. This man was like a child who could not tolerate his wife saying the word good about any man other than him, even if it was just a joke or a compliment. How much did he care about her to have such a possessive desire? This kind of man was rare in the world. Let's not talk about this. I haven't seen your grandfather and grandmother for a long time. How are they? Granduncle, you don't have to worry. Grandfather and grandmother are very good. I don't know if grandfather told you that eldest brother and sister-in-law have an eldest son, third brother and third sister-in-law have an eldest daughter, second brother's marriage is also settled, and all the sisters who are married are having happy events one after another. Except for a few things that don't go well, there are no other problems. That's good, that's good. By the way, I have a teaching book on fine brushwork in my hand. In front of outsiders, Jingwan could actually be righteous, but in front of trusted relatives, Jingwan always felt a little guilty. Your grandfather told me that you have been advising your third brother a lot. It is the Luo family's fortune to have a daughter like you. Those who didn't know would just think that Jingwan put a lot of effort into the book like Luo Jinghua. After all, this idea was not hidden from outsiders, but those who knew would naturally understand that it was far more than that. I am the daughter of the Luo family, and the Luo family treats me well. Not only am I an elder brother, but I should do something for the Luo family. You are a good child. Your grandmother has always said so, and in fact it is true. Back then, if your grandmother allowed me to take you to travel the world, there would be no one else around me. Luo Peisong said with emotion. Jingwan was surprised. There is such a thing. She had never heard her grandmother mention it. How could there not be? Your grandmother directly gave me a fierce beating. She was so ruthless that it was comparable to the time when she forced me to straighten my back. Your grandmother said that I was not serious at all, and that I was a bad influence on her darling. She had to break my legs, throw me out of the Luo family, and never let me take half a step back in the house. Perhaps it was because he thought of the taste of pleasure. Luo Peisong's body couldn't help but tremble a little. Jingwan was overjoyed, and she almost choked from laughing. Li Hongyuan helplessly patted her back. Granduncle, you can't take me away. If you choose one of my brothers, grandfather and grandmother will definitely be happy. What do I need them for? They are all blockheads, and they don't have the slightest bit of spirit. It is simply a disgrace to bring such people out. Besides, how can a stinky brat be as considerate as a little girl? Then Luo Peisong began to criticize all the disciples he had taught. In short, in his eyes, there was not a single good person. As for Jiang Wanli, who had been respectfully standing by the side, Jingwan felt that he had a dumbfounded expression on his face since the beginning. He probably didn't expect his teacher to be such a teacher. He was a little disillusioned, and even a little on the verge of collapse. And when he talked about all kinds of things that didn't go his way, he felt guilty. It was all because he didn't do well that he wronged his teacher. And in Jingwan's view, this was purely granduncle showing off. Several of his brothers could be called blockheads by him, and his disciples were not few in number. If this wasn't showing off, what was it? After saying these, They talked about Li Hongyuan's task in Jiangnan. Like the older people, Luo Peisong only knew about the academy examination for the time being. But this matter seemed to have stepped on his reverse scale. He was especially resentful, and his face was livid. If you need my help, just tell me. I still have some connections in the scholarly community. This prince thanks old Mister in advance. But this time, it's better for people not to interfere. On the surface, it's cheating in the academy examination, but secretly it's also related to the salt policy. The amount is too large, and the water is too deep. There are many dangers, so old Mister shouldn't get involved. Moreover, this prince has enough ideas. Luo Peisong was shocked. He looked at Li Hongyuan, and his eyes became more subtle. Your Highness trusts this commoner. You are the granduncle of this prince's wife. This prince can give enough trust to people close to her. Your Highness is so confident that he's conceited. He looked at his disciple meaningfully. Of course, it's not that he didn't trust his disciple, but he felt that Li Hongyuan shouldn't trust people easily. Since you know there's danger, why are you still bringing this girl? Wan's safest place is always by my side. Digression, these 2 days, the baby has been really clingy. During the day, she went to the park, and at night, she still held her and refused to let go. She really didn't have much time to write, please forgive her. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653503. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 284. The safest place for Wan will always be by my side, Li Hongyuan said matter-of-factly without even thinking. Luo Peisong was speechless at his conceited words. He was not conceited, but he cared too much about her. He cared so much that he would not feel at ease unless she was under his nose. He cared so much that he did not want to leave her in the care of anyone else. It could only be said that he had let Jingwan leave and never come back in his previous life, which had cast a shadow over his heart. He would never allow such a thing to happen again. Moreover, he could barely restrain himself when he did not have her. Now that he had her, he could not bear to let her out of his sight for too long. Although there was no specific time limit, it was at most a few hours. After that he would be in a bad mood, irritable or even anxious. It was as if his obsession had been upgraded. He knew that there was something wrong with him, but he did not want to control it, nor did he want to change it. From the perspective of any woman in the Qi Yuan dynasty, she probably would not feel that her husband cared too much about her. Wherever he went, he would take her with him. She would not feel that there was anything wrong with her husband being angry when she paid attention to or talked to another man. She would only feel extra happy and satisfied. From Jingwan's perspective, Li Hongyuan's excessive possessiveness did not make her feel uncomfortable. She felt that she had lost herself because of her background and her own reasons. After all, no matter how crazy she yearned for freedom, she could not do something that was not tolerated by others. Jingwan was not at that level. Moreover, although Li Hongyuan was possessive, he did not do anything that would make others feel uncomfortable. Jingwan smiled faintly. Granduncle, if His Highness did not take me with him, I would probably never have the chance to go out in sightseeing. According to my original intention, I would definitely be willing to go out with you. But you see, not to mention grandmother, even grandfather would not allow it. But His Highness is different. If anyone else wants to bring me out for a sightseeing tour, including myself, they will definitely be stopped. Only His Highness is not. And since he already anticipated that there might be danger, His Highness will naturally arrange everything well. Even if we encounter the worst situation, at least we won't have to worry at that moment. I think it's quite good. If I can encounter the worst situation just by going out for a trip, then this prince doesn't need to live anymore. Li Hongyuan was a little dissatisfied with Jingwan's words. Jingwan rolled her eyes at him. I'm saying what if? There's no what if. Hey, that's enough, Jingwan said helplessly. Sometimes, She really felt that this man was quite childish. Only then did Luo Peisong feel that the two of them had had enough. They were always provoking a loner like him, making him want to find a wife at his age. He stopped and waved his hand decisively. Do whatever you want. His Highness doesn't need to care so much. If you really need it, just say the word. In that case, this prince won't be polite with old teacher. Whether he agreed verbally or not was one thing. Whether he would use it or not was another. Of course, nothing was absolute. Jiang Wanli was not called away by Luo Peisong. He just quietly waited on the side waiting for tea. He was gentle and handsome, really worthy of the name. He was very consistent with Li Hongyuan's impression of him. It was just that when this person did things, he was swift and decisive. There were more and more acquaintances. In the beginning, you knew the ins and outs of others, but they knew nothing about you. Li Hongyuan had a subtle sense of superiority in his heart, but gradually, that was the case. No matter how much you knew, you might not have the ability to do anything. He was the only one who knew the hardships in the beginning. However, in his eyes, those were nothing. Everything he had done was for today and for the future. Currently, he was very satisfied with everything. When they were chatting happily, Su Ting finally returned to the provincial governor's manor. However, she was stopped at the door and was given all kinds of difficulties. Even if she revealed her identity, she could not enter the house. The gatekeeper confidently said that their miss was staying at home well. Their miss was so noble and dignified. How could she dress like this? Moreover, there were servants everywhere, and she was surrounded by people. Don't think that just because you have a face like their miss, you can come and blackmail her. Su Ting only felt that her ankle was in excruciating pain. She didn't need to look at it to know that it was red and swollen. She had always been spoiled and would occasionally be lectured by her elder sister. However, there was a huge age gap between them. When her elder sister wasn't married, she was still young. Most of the time, her elder sister would only speak harshly to her. After she got married, they met less and less often. Hence, even a little pain on her body would make her extremely uncomfortable. Being stopped at this time, she really felt wronged. In the end, she said ruthlessly that unless she died immediately, as long as she entered this door, she would definitely not let this lowly servant off. The old maid guarding the door was scared and hesitated for a moment. Su Ting, you are really impressive. Who will you not let off? This is my arrangement. What, you won't let me off too? There was only one person who would deliberately emphasize that her name was changed. Su Ting was silent and did not speak. She really did not want to use her current appearance to face this official sister. However, things did not go as she wished. Su Ting's official sister unhurriedly stepped forward and pulled her, forcing her to turn around. Seeing her sorry figure, her lips curled into a smile. Oh, our Kai Ming Fu's #1 beauty. Didn't you go to find Jin Wangya? Looking at this, you didn't succeed? But thinking about it, unless Jin Wangya's eyes are bad, he would not take a fancy to you like this, right? Su Ting seemed to have reacted at this moment. It's you who forced me to dress like this? You're not that stupid, ah. That's right, it was all arranged by me. I knew that if you succeeded, it would be disadvantageous to me. Of course, I had to do something. Sitting and waiting for death is not my style. However, I feel that even if I didn't do anything, you probably wouldn't have succeeded? Almost being thrown down from the Immortals viewing platform. What does it feel like? So, not only did she scheme against her, she also sent someone to follow her? Su Ting had always hated this official sister. Now she hated her even more. This was her last chance, and it was destroyed like this. She hated. Su Ting's official sister had never seen her like this. As if she couldn't wait to eat human blood and eat human flesh. Although there were similar looks in the past, it was never this intense. She subconsciously took a step back. After realizing what she had done, her face turned ashen. Hate it. I want to see what other tricks you can come up with. Flicking her sleeves, she stepped into the door first. This time, there was no one to stop her. Su Ting limped in. The servant girl, who served her, anxiously watched from the shadows. When she saw someone, she hurriedly stepped forward. Miss. Su Ting didn't say anything, only letting the servant girl help her back. It wasn't that she didn't think of escaping from this house, but she knew that she would definitely not succeed. As long as there was the slightest movement, she would be caught and brought back. The consequences. Su Ting found that her aunt was waiting for her. She was originally a first-class beauty. Even though she was almost 40 years old, she was still beautiful. There weren't many traces of age on her face. When she saw Su Ting, her eyebrows didn't even twitch. When she saw that Su Ting's leg was injured, she asked someone to bring her medicine. When the servant girl was applying medicine for Su Ting, she stood at the side. My intention in telling you this was to let you be mentally prepared, but I didn't expect you to have other thoughts. However, if I don't let you do it, you probably won't give up. If you succeed, your father won't say anything. However, the person he likes more is still the person he originally liked. You should be able to feel it yourself. The reason isn't clear, but you can't expect your father to have any kind of father-daughter relationship. Don't expect him to have any sympathy. He will be merciful. Now that things have come to this, you only have two choices. Either you die, or you follow your father's arrangements. Death requires guts and courage. If you have it, then be more decisive. Don't do things that seek death. There won't be any results. The one who will suffer is still yourself. If you don't want to die, then think carefully. When you reach that person, you may not end up the same as others. Everything has to be done to know the result. If you blindly treat it with a negative attitude and don't do anything, naturally there won't be any results. After all, that kind of man, you can't expect him to like your face. If you throw a tantrum at him, he will obediently serve you. You should take out the attitude you treat Jin Qin Wang. A man's body is even less worth pursuing. As long as it's not unbearable to look at, it's enough. That's all I have to say. You're on your own now. She flicked her sleeves and left. Su Ting's tears fell pitter-patter. The more she cried, the fiercer she became, until she wailed loudly. After crying, she still had to face what she had to face. After crying, Su Ting let people prepare water for her. She bathed, changed her clothes and put on makeup. She was the #1 beauty of Kai Ming Fu, so she should have the appearance and posture of the #1 beauty. After carefully tidying up, she became a veritable beauty. Only compared to the past, her body seemed to have more quiet and reserved. In some people's eyes, it would probably be more attractive. In other people's eyes, it would probably feel that she had become dull, no longer that flirtatious. And Su Ting's elder sister went to see her biological mother, the governor's wife, to talk about some intimate things between mother and daughter. She didn't know why, but she talked about Su Ting again. Unlike in the past, the governor's wife no longer treated her coldly. Instead, she opened her mouth to let her daughter not make things difficult for her. She's just a pitiful person. Mother, why did you suddenly say that? She remembered when that woman appeared, how sad her mother was. Her mother hated her so much at that time. Even after she got over it, she still didn't have a good expression towards that mother and daughter. Although she was surprised, but she still noticed her mother's strange mood. Mother, did something happen? It's nothing. Some things couldn't be said, and she didn't want to erase her daughter's last bit of admiration for her biological father. If she knew that her own father was so ruthless and heartless, she wouldn't know how sad she would be. Originally, she wanted to say something, but seeing that her mother didn't want to say anything more, she didn't ask anymore. Somehow, she felt that it wasn't something good. Governor Su didn't know when he returned to the Fu. He asked someone to call Su Ting over. Looking at her bearing and expression, it seemed that she already knew what happened, so she didn't say much. Instead, he became a loving father again, letting her recuperate well. But he didn't ask how she got hurt. What he was concerned about was the words and actions of Li Hongyuan and Jingwan during Su Ting's trip. Su Ting also told him everything in detail, although it wasn't word for word, but there wasn't any error, and she didn't bring in any personal strong emotions. After Governor Su finished listening, there wasn't any strange expression on his face. He sent Su Ting away, and then sat at a distance, drinking tea while thinking quietly. The final point was actually, Jin Qinhuang consort. Luo Peisong stayed for dinner. Whether Li Hongyuan was willing or not, As long as Jingwan nodded, it would be fine. Anyway, Luo Peisong could see that on this kind of small matter, there was no need to ask for someone's opinion. If Jingwan said yes, he wouldn't say anything against it. It was simply the husband follows the wife's lead. As the elder of the woman's family, there was nothing more worth being happy about. After all, Luo Peisong's fear towards the living king of hell was not as deep as his own elder brother. If he had something to say, then just say it. If he scolded, then just scold him. At most, he would just leave after 2 days. There was no need to worry that he would be put in a tight spot. However, Luo Peisong found that he still underestimated the tolerance of the living king of hell. When it came to Wanner's matter, his heart might be smaller than the tip of a needle, but for other matters, he wasn't as vengeful as what he heard. Even if he really pointed at his nose and scolded him, his expression wouldn't change. He knew that Wanner played a part in this, but he could also see that this person was getting more and more unfathomable. Without power or influence, without a single redeeming feature, perhaps this was the biggest variable in this fight for the throne. Luo Peisong drifted outside the capital, but it didn't mean that he was completely indifferent to the Luo family's matters. On the contrary, the Luo family had someone he cared about the most. They were his roots. He knew very well that if one of them rose or fell, all of them would fall. He was free and unfettered outside not because of his elder brother. He believed that if something happened to the Luo family, even if he wasn't implicated, he would definitely be ostracized when he walked outside in the future. It was possible that he would die in any corner in order to eliminate the root of the problem. Thinking of this, Luo Peisong felt that perhaps he should return to the capital and have a good chat with his elder brother. Luo Peisong's meals were the same as the other professors. They were all distributed by the people of the Kaming Academy. When they learned that the prince and princess were present, they naturally had to add more dishes. However, even if they added more, they weren't like the officials of the Kaming mansion, who put in all kinds of effort. In terms of the number of dishes, they were far less. At this time, he seemed to have a good appetite for the derogatory remarks of the officials of the Kaming mansion. Because Jingwan was present, they didn't ask Jiang Wanli to avoid them. Once again, they used one table for one table, and added Yu Zhongqing and Lord Shi. After his impression of Li Hongyuan changed, Luo Peisong didn't deliberately pick on him. He spoke to Li Hongyuan calmly. Li Hongyuan still didn't speak much, but no matter what was said he could respond. Moreover, he could always hit the nail on the head, and even hit the nail on the head. It was absolutely no problem for him to talk about books and studies. Except for Jingwan, there was probably no one who wasn't surprised. Although Jiang Wanli was introverted and not flamboyant, he was confident that among the younger generation, there weren't many people who could be compared to him in terms of talent and learning. It wasn't strange to meet someone like him. However, it was really surprising that this person was a prince, a young prince. There were a lot of things that princes needed to learn, but no one would ever train them to be knowledgeable and talented. If they were barely on the same level in terms of talent and learning, then Prince Jin's understanding of everything was far from his. He seemed to be standing at a height that was difficult for others to reach, with the bearing of pointing out the country. Not to mention him benefiting, even Luo Peisong unexpectedly gained enlightenment from it. Thinking about it, Li Hongyuan had experienced the past life and the present life. Even if he had experienced all the years, he still fell short of Luo Peisong by a large margin. He had experienced the sorrows of life, tasted all the heartache, experienced the movements of the country, saw all the tragedies of the battlefield, and also made a country swaying in the wind and rain to become prosperous. In the end, he even tasted death. In all these aspects, there were few people who could be compared to him. Naturally, he had a broad view, a wide view, and a deep understanding. And Luo Peisong, even if he was a great scholar, his understanding of life was still much narrower. Not to mention, he basically didn't touch on the important matters of ruling the country. Listening to a monarch's words was better than reading 10 years of books. Jiang Wanli sincerely bowed to Li Hongyuan, because Li Hongyuan's words even filled in his shortcomings. Speaking of which, Li Hongyuan deliberately did this. After all, He was also clear about Jiang Wanli's shortcomings in the beginning. Now he filled in for him and shortened the detours in his official career, so that in the future, he could work harder and faster for him. If the people under him were able to do things well, then he as the boss would be more relaxed. Only by being a hands-off shopkeeper could he be free and at ease, without any worries. And Luo Peisong's favorable impression of Li Hongyuan, which was -100, directly soared to a +100. All kinds of displeasing to the eye became all kinds of pleasing to the eye. Jingwan's eyes turned and she sighed in her heart. Should she say that he was still the living king of hell? Once he wanted to please someone, there was no one who couldn't be easily won over. Although the current situation was far from the extent of pleasing, at most, it could be considered as casually brushing up the favorability. But the effect was really too good, really too good. And throughout the whole process, the only one who remained silent was Yu Zhongqing. After all, he was a military general. Although he still studied, he was still too far behind these people. Of course, what he didn't understand was only some things from the books. As for current affairs, his understanding was probably second only to Li Hongyuan. After all, he stayed by Lu Qingdi's side every day and listened to everything. As long as he wasn't too stupid, he should understand what he didn't understand after a long time. However, he was still shocked by Li Hongyuan. He had witnessed Li Hongyuan's ruthlessness and means, as well as his wisdom and foresight. He felt that it was a waste for Emperor Lu Qingdi to give up such an excellent son. At the same time, he was even more curious about the reason why His Majesty did so. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653507. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website mbicken.com. Chapter 285. These people were completely convinced by Li Hongyuan. Even Jingwan, who had seen part of his talent and ability, also sincerely admired him at this time. However, this kind of admiration did not last for 3 seconds. Li Hongyuan turned back, and under the cover of the wine cup, he smiled a little proudly at Jingwan, as if to say, "Look, you are so easily convinced." Jingwan couldn't help but want to face bomb. What was with this feeling of asking for praise? It must be an illusion. As a result, a little doubt arose in Jingwan's heart. Some things could be learned quickly, but some things could not be learned. Since he was born, it was said that he had never left the capital. How could he have those experiences that were far beyond the mind? All these questions were thrown out of the sky by him. In the end, Luo Peisong said that he would stay in Kaming Mansion for a while until Jingwan and the others left. Then he would leave. As for the next destination, since he had the idea of returning to the capital and had no other clear plans, it was better to go directly to the capital. At that time, he would leave his letter and name card. That can't be better. Grandfather and grandmother will be very happy. If we can stay here, they will probably be even happier. Jingwan said with a smile. That's hard to say. After all, I'm not young anymore. I've made your grandparents worry for many years. When my parents were still alive, because they were unwilling to get married, they had always helped to mediate in front of my parents. That's why our relationship didn't become a mess. All this time, they have been indulging my willfulness. If I continue to make them worry like this, it is indeed a little too much. In their eyes, no matter how old I am probably uncertain and unreliable. They thought that it was true in the early years, but later, they probably got used to it. They were used to wandering outside and wandering. Maybe it is time for them to change this impression. Luo Peisong was a little disappointed. Granduncle, you don't have to worry about it. Because you and grandfather are born of the same mother, you are their close relatives, so they won't mind these small things. That is indeed the case. However, most of the time, the one who really can't let go is yourself, not others. It's because of guilt, self-blame, or even resentment. Indeed, Jingwan could completely understand and appreciate this feeling, because she felt the same way. But now, Jingwan glanced at the man beside her, and seemed to be accepting his kindness more and more calmly. Sometimes she even felt that it was natural. This was also what he wanted. He wanted her to trust him without reservation and rely on him. He was committed to making her learn how to be extravagant and enjoy life. He tried to use the best things in the world to bribe her so that she could not leave him. Even though he didn't say it out loud, Jingwan could feel it from his actions. Even though he knew it didn't mean much, it was more likely that he simply wanted to give her the best, that's all. If he wanted to keep her forever, it was very simple. He just needed to be the only one in his body and mind, the only one that belonged to her. When they left, Luo Peisong didn't hesitate to ask Lord Shi to stay behind. After all, when Luo Peisong spoke, it was definitely a surprise. Lord Shi had a lot of shortcomings, so he knew a lot of things. However, under normal circumstances he couldn't talk at all. After all, ordinary people didn't think that the things he knew were useful at all. But those who knew liked to quote from classics and classics. At one point, Lord Shi couldn't understand what Luo Peisong was saying, so he became a useless person. However, at Luo Peisong's level, there was no need for him to show off his knowledge. It was as if he had returned to his natural state. It would be strange if he didn't understand the most straightforward words. Li Hongyuan didn't have any objections to keeping Lord Shi. After all, he already knew about the situation in Kaming Mansion and its surroundings. In Li Hongyuan's eyes, Lord Shi was reduced to a useless person. Since that was the case, one more person wouldn't make a difference. Thus he was mercilessly abandoned just like that. Lord Shi was very happy to be able to learn from a famous scholar for a period of time. It was something that he didn't even dare to think about. Due to some considerations, neither Li Hongyuan nor Jingwan asked anyone to serve them. Therefore, when they left Luo Peisong's small courtyard, only Granny Gong and Muan were waiting at the door. However, there were probably many people who knew that they were here, so there were quite a number of people who seemed to be wandering around intentionally or unintentionally. These people had no effect on Jingwan and the others. They were ready to leave Kaming Academy directly. Li Hongyuan knew very well what his father was thinking. Although Yu Zhongqing wouldn't tell on them, Li Hongyuan was really not interested in paying attention to this group of obviously immature, but ambitious students. Along the way, there were some people who wanted to approach them. However, there were always some men and women in strange clothes, who came out of nowhere and isolated them. Then, they clustered around the people who were led by the two of them. Only then did they know that they were the ones who brought them out. With such an obvious gesture of rejection, naturally, there wouldn't be any tactless people who continued to approach them. Meeting Luo Peisong was unexpected. Therefore, with this delay, it was getting late, and they could go back directly. In the next few days, Jingwan and the others finished exploring all the places in the city, and began to explore outside the city. Due to Li Hongyuan's connivance, Jingwan almost abandoned the carriage. Most likely, she rode on a horse, either alone or with two people. Her horsemanship improved by leaps and bounds. From this mountain top to that valley, from this temple to that dam, it was the time when 100 flowers were blooming and competing with each other for beauty. Regardless of whether it was natural beauty or man-made carvings, they were all so beautiful that nothing could be taken in all at once. Furthermore, there were also the steep peaks, the ever-changing sea of clouds, and the magnificent sunrise and sunset. Sometimes, when she heard that there was something delicious in a remote place, she would go straight there. Even if the final result was not satisfactory, Jingwan still smiled happily. Li Hongyuan was originally just playing with her. Seeing Jingwan's smile was enough for him to be happy and calm in the depths of his heart. However, Jingwan would not let him go. Not to mention that the King of Hell knew how to play. In fact, he played very elegantly. The craziest and wildest thing was probably when he rode on a horse. In the end, he still could keep his clothes and hair tidy. The first time he lost his image was probably when he was pulled by Jingwan to run wildly in the imperial plantation. With that experience, Li Hongyuan did not have a sense of rejection. After really experiencing that kind of unrestrained recklessness, People who were raised under the strictest dogma would also be addicted to it. One time, Jingwan was on a whim. Originally, she was going to go back to the city. However, she dilly-dallied and refused to go back. She was determined to have a camping trip. It should be known that now her will was the priority, and no one would say anything. The things were not fully prepared. According to Nanny Gong's idea, she asked people to go back to the city to get them. However, Jingwan firmly refused. The reason why she did this was not because she did not know that the people around her had to prepare a lot of things before going out. There was no surprise or accident in it. It was not that Jingwan was a thrill-seeker and adventurous person in her bones. It was purely because the people around her were too rigid. However, after this time, Jingwan did not want to play this kind of accident again. Because after this time, whenever she went out of the city, the people around her would prepare more and more things. Every time she went out of the city, she would have a camping trip and a high-class accommodation. Thinking of those things, Jingwan could not help but sigh. She asked for help from someone, but that person just watched the show and said that the person who served her did a good job. He would reward her on the spot and give her a pay raise later. No one listened to her advice. In the end, Jingwan could only helplessly say that she would not be willful in the future. Nanny Gong said that she did not think it through before and would not make the same mistake in the future. If Nanny Gong was expressing dissatisfaction with her, she would still say it. However, Jingwan knew that Nanny Gong really thought so. It was nothing more than moving a stone to drop on one's own foot. Other than these small unsatisfactory things, everything else was very enjoyable. It was really enjoyable. This was because, intentionally or unintentionally, Li Hongyuan had unlocked many new postures. The clear spring in the mountain stream, the bushes in the wilderness, the steeds on the road. There were too many places where they had left their scents. The living King Yama wiped his mouth in satisfaction. It should be known that for people like them, other than those who had special fetishes, most of them restrained themselves and observed etiquette in bed. In his previous life, before the accident, other than being smarter than most people, he was also a qualified noble son. Later on, his temperament changed greatly. In addition, his health was not good to begin with, and he had someone in his heart, so he did not have such thoughts. Needless to say, in this life, he kept his chastity for the person he loved the most. He did not think that he could play like this. Although the living king of hell was crazy, and the pleasure of intimacy was full of skills, he could still be called conservative and pure in some aspects. However, after this, Jingwan lit a row of candles for herself. As the time that Li Hongyuan and the others stayed in Kai Mingfu increased, seeing that the Dragon Boat Festival was approaching, the officials of Kai Mingfu became more and more anxious. Although it seemed that Jin Qinhuang did not do anything, there was always a sense of urgency, like a storm was coming. The 28 Fu and Jiangnan's 4 counties were strangely calm, completely different from the expected turmoil. Moreover, unknowingly, the spearhead was pointed at Kai Mingfu. If they did not do anything wrong, naturally they would not be afraid of ghosts knocking on the door. But in reality, there were not many officials of Kai Mingfu who did not have a guilty conscience. Jingwan, who was almost done playing, returned to the house, and those Furens finally found the opportunity and excuse to visit, inviting Jin Qinhuang and his wife to attend the lunch banquet. Jingwan accepted the invitation and said that she would definitely be there. Afterwards, these Furens then mentioned their own evil spawn, but they did not want to take them back, only asking if they could see them. Although they tried their best to show that they did not care and were reserved, Jingwan still saw the anxiety and worry in their eyes, and there was also a bit of pleading. Jingwan then remembered, in this other courtyard, there was still a group of playboy young masters who lived like tyrants. They played to their heart's content, and accidentally fell into the sea of oblivion. What was it? She sent people to re-educate them. Could it be that it had been continuing? Her face did not change, but her heart was a bit guilty. Turning back, "Mama, how are the young masters?" Replying to Wang Fei, "The young masters are eating well and sleeping well. Everything is fine." Jingwan nodded. "I will tell Wang Ye to let the young masters go back. What do you think?" It just so happens that Wang Ye mentioned this morning, Wang Fei can make the decision regarding the young masters. Gong Mama responded, like this. Then that's fine. Go invite the young masters out, and return with the Furins. The master and servant pair sang the same tune. And under the situation where there was no prior communication, they tacitly handled this matter simply. Things went so smoothly that it naturally made the Furins happy, but the worry in their hearts did not lessen much. Not to mention other things, their own children had always been spoiled since childhood, stretching out their hands for clothes, and opening their mouths for food. Who knew how these days passed? Would they have lost so much weight by now? When they thought of that appearance, they could not stop the heartache, but they could not show the slightest bit of it on their faces. At the same time, they had to thank Jin Qinhuang and Jin Qinhuang Fei for their children's care these days. Jingwan listened to their insincere words, and her face could not help but stiffen. Jingwan lowered her head to drink tea, as if she did not see anything. Originally, they thought that they would have to wait for some time to tidy up their children, but they did not expect that it would be so fast. Then, when they saw this group of familiar yet unfamiliar children, the Furins were stunned. It must be said that as long as they had not seen their grandchildren for more than a few days, they would habitually say, "My son is dead." But at this moment, no one could say this sentence against their heart. The expected thin and haggard did not appear. In fact, it was the opposite. Their complexions were rosy, and almost everyone had put on weight. Their spirits were also good, and their actions were moderate, unlike when they were at home, where they drank too much, spoke and behaved without any rules, and were sloppy. Every time they saw them, it gave them a headache. They could not help but doubt, were these really their own children? Until they paid their respects to the Furins, and then each went to find their mother. Those who were not blood-related looked indifferent, but those who were blood-related, some of the emotions in their eyes could not be hidden. They were people who could not be more familiar. How could they not be their own children? It was just that the occasion was not right, and some words were not good to say. They resisted and bid farewell to Jingwan. It was the governor's wife who stayed until the end, because she was the only one who did not see her son. Wang Fei nyang this. Jingwan was also puzzled. Mama, what's the matter? Replying to Wang Fei, regarding the governor's son, the situation is a bit special. I'm afraid we have to ask the governor's wife to go back first. Later, we will send him to the governor's residence. How could this be? She subconsciously thought of the worst situation. Speaking of which, even if her son was not good, he was still the flesh that fell from her son's body. Towards an outsider, even if she had good feelings, could this good feelings surpass her own son? The governor's wife suppressed her anger. That evil creature can receive Wang Ye's and Wang Fei's care. That is his good fortune. How could he continue to trouble Wang Ye and Wang Fei? Even if the situation is a bit special, this subject's wife can wait. Since that's the case, Mama, just invite them over. They all came in together, so it's not good to treat them differently. Just send them out together. Mama Gong hesitated for a moment. Yes, Wang Fei. The person was quickly carried over, and it was carried over by 4 people. The governor's wife could not believe her eyes. Was this really her son and not a fat pig? Until the other party's familiar voice sounded. The governor's wife's legs went soft, and she almost fainted. When Jingwan saw this for the first time, she choked and coughed. What, wasn't this method a bit too cruel? But in such a short period of time, how did she manage to feed him to this extent? This wasn't increasing his weight, but directly increasing his weight? Jingwan was too embarrassed to speak to the governor's wife. The governor's wife looked at Jingwan and gritted her teeth. If her son was the same as the others, she might really be grateful to Jingwan. But he was so fat, she would not believe that there was nothing fishy about it even if she was beaten to death. The anger in her eyes was almost tangible. This evil creature is really indebted to the prince and Wang Fei for taking care of him. Jingwan did not speak, but Mama Gong was not so polite. Madam is right. After all, your son is personally taken care of by the prince, so he is naturally different from others. Speaking of which, your son's appetite is really good. Although the governor's mansion is not rich, it should not be a problem to raise a son. In the future, don't be too harsh on him. The governor's wife was so angry that her chest heaved up and down quickly. "I'll take my leave first." She left in a huff, but the servant girl could not move the pig. In the end, the guards helped to carry the pig to the carriage. After sending them off, Jingwan asked about the governor's son. In the end, the living king of hell had people drugged him, and he would be hungry whenever he ate. Jingwan selectively put this matter aside. Only then did she realize that the festival was coming, and she had completely forgotten about it. Naturally, she did not prepare to send the festival gifts to the capital. That was why she hurried to find Mama Gong and the others. As the saying goes, one can't be late. Now she regretted deeply in her heart. "Your Highness, don't worry. The festival gifts in the capital have been sent back. Everyone should have a share. No one is left behind." Jingwan exhaled. She was sincerely grateful to have such a considerate and thoughtful person. "Thank you, Mama Gong." "Your Highness, you are too polite. You did not inform me and acted on your own accord. I should ask for your forgiveness. How can I accept your thanks?" Mama Gong was still serious and proper. "Mama Gong, you are too boring. You have been my master for 3 or 4 years. You have helped me a lot and taught me a lot. Nominally, you are my master and servant, but in your heart, you treat me as your elder. Mama Gong has always been strict with yourself and has never overstepped your boundaries. In your heart, do you really treat me as your master?" Mama Gong was silent for a moment, and then she gave a rare smile. "Since your Highness said so, there is no need to thank me." "That's right. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653511. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website mbicken.com. Chapter 286. Jingwan turned back to talk to Li Hongyuan about the governor's son. Li Hongyuan just glanced at her. His son has been fattened up, not skinny like firewood. He should be grateful to this prince. His son has eaten so much of this prince's food, and this prince hasn't asked him for money yet. How dare he have an opinion? Muan, eunuch Mu, who was guarding outside, immediately responded at the door. "Master, what are your orders?" "Go to the governor's mansion and tell the governor that his son can eat too much. One person can eat a group of people. This prince only said to raise a person that day, not a pig. Let him quickly calculate the excess into money and send it over. He should be more self-aware. Every time, this prince has to tell him what to do personally. Does he, as the governor, rely on others to tell him about his government affairs?" Li Hongyuan's words were vicious and heart-wrenching. Those who had a slightly weaker tolerance would vomit blood in anger. "Yes," eunuch Mu responded. He would definitely convey his master's words word for word. Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan, as if she wanted to say something. Li Hongyuan looked back at her with a faint smile. "Wan Wan, do you want to plead for leniency again?" "Ah Yuan, you think too much. Why would I plead for leniency for an unrelated person? And that's right. Those were all outsiders. She should follow the husband and wife." Li Hongyuan played with Jingwan's fingers one by one, as if he was studying the most perfect art. Then he put them to his lips and kissed them. A little numb, and a small electric current seemed to spread from her fingertips to her whole body. Jingwan couldn't help but shrink back. Naturally, she didn't succeed. When she met Li Hongyuan's slightly condemning gaze, it was as if she had done something heinous. Jingwan really felt a little guilty at the first moment. She wanted to curse. What's so great about having a high face? Can you use a handsome man's trick as you please? She wouldn't fall for this trick. Doesn't Ah Yuan have anything to say about the banquet? What's there to say? The worst that can happen is that there will be no good banquet. Even if they use the enlightened official army, I can still escape. Besides, do you think that they have the guts to use the official army? Tong Prefecture had a total of 120,000 soldiers. Because Kaming Prefecture was also a prefecture, it had 20,000 more soldiers than other prefectures. The governor of a county was in charge of the army of a county. However, the people in each prefecture were not to be trifled with. It should be known that in order to divide the power, the subordinates were not united in the original arrangement. In this county, it was already good enough that there were 50,000 people who were completely under his command. Among these 50,000 people, there were at most 10,000 from the Kaming prefecture. Moreover, once they made a move, they would definitely be stopped by others. Mobilizing the prefecture army to deal with the prince was already a blatant rebellion. How many people would have the guts to search the whole family without any reason? Even if it's a secret operation, if there are less than 1,000 people, they can't even touch a strand of my hair. If there are more than this number, can it still be considered a secret operation? Li Hongyuan raised his hand, and the back of his finger brushed across Jingwan's cheek. As long as I'm still alive, I will definitely not let you suffer the slightest bit of harm. You're really unlucky. If there's any chance, I will send you one step ahead. Don't worry, it won't be very painful. I have always been decisive. When Li Hongyuan said this, there was a gentle smile on his face. However, these words were not a joke. If he said it, he would definitely do it. There was a trace of ruthlessness in his words. Up to heaven, down to hell. As long as you don't let me down, I will not abandon you. Jingwan smiled and leaned into his embrace. One really doesn't want to suffer losses. There must be a prerequisite for not abandoning me. Li Hongyuan stroked her back gently. Of course. Can't I? Yes, there's nothing you can't do. Since he had already said this, Jingwan naturally did not continue to ask. Moreover, in Jingwan's opinion, the possibility of using the official army was infinitely close to zero. On the day of the Dragon Boat Festival, Li Hongyuan did not wear the imperial attire of a prince, and Jingwan did not wear the formal attire of a prince's consort. However, they both came out in splendid attire. They were not low-key luxurious, but high-profile and gorgeous. Even from afar, one could feel their extraordinary nobility. More importantly, they were able to firmly suppress the splendid attire on their bodies. To them, the attire was only to add color to their appearance. There was absolutely no awkwardness of wearing the imperial robe or looking like a crown prince. The first thing to notice would always be the person, and then the things on their bodies. Moreover, Jingwan even put on makeup today to highlight her own advantages and lessen some of the imperfections. She was still the same person, but she was exceptionally stunning. She had the aura of a beauty that overshadowed all the other beauties. In fact, there were indeed beauty and ugliness. However, in Jingwan's opinion, it was really difficult to choose the first beauty. After all, everyone's aesthetic was not the same. It was hard to imagine that Li Hongyuan's beauty could be recognized as the first beauty in the capital without seeing him in person. It could be imagined that he was extremely handsome. As for his mother, it was said that she was the first beauty in Jiangnan. How beautiful was she? She was the kind who did not wear any makeup. To be able to give birth to a son like Li Hongyuan, his appearance completely overshadowed Lu Qingdi's. It could be seen that his genes were powerful. However, Lu Qingdi was also handsome and dignified. If he was too ugly, with a son like Li Hongyuan, everyone would think that he was cuckolded. Their imposing manner was not only reflected in themselves, but also in a line of guards who wore the same uniform and carried swords at their waists. Jingwan's 6 maids were also dressed in the same uniform. They were beautiful but smart and capable. The 2 nannies were also upright and had spirited eyes. However, when they got closer, they found that there were actually female guards among the guards. Jingwan was already a married woman, and was even a Qinwang Fei. Naturally, there would not be any men who would have designs on her. However, Li Hongyuan was different. He had a wife and could still have designs on her. He who suppressed all the men, it was really difficult for those unmarried women not to have designs on him, even if they were repeatedly warned by their families. Not to mention other things, just look at Jin Qinwang Fei's outfit. The material of the clothes was something that the majority of them had never seen before. It was extremely gorgeous and beautiful, and that set of top-quality ruby head ornaments, even if it was just one piece, it was more than the total value of their bodies added together. Moreover, it was so exquisite that it made people unable to take their eyes off it. It was obviously the work of a top master. Didn't they see that those maids' clothes were better than them, the Guan girls? These things, how many women in the world did not love them? Perhaps things that were out of reach for a lifetime. As long as they married Jin Qinhuang, everything would be at their fingertips. Would it really be like this? He really too naive. Li Hongyuan would only pile it on Jingwan. So much that there was no place to put it. So much that it became moldy. And he would definitely be stingy with others. And these officials, did they not think of marrying their daughters to Jin Qinhuang? They had thought of it, and it was not just one or two. Even though they basically knew that Li Hongyuan did not have any power. But he was deeply favored by the emperor, and his wealth was monstrous. Just these 2 points alone were enough. Moreover, according to his tyranny that could not be provoked as his in-laws, who would dare to make a move? However, it was said that Governor Su's Shu daughter was almost thrown off the Immortals viewing platform by Jin Qinhuang Fei. With such a ruthless and jealous person, and Jin Qinhuang still being partial to helping her, could their own daughter enter the door? Even if she entered the door, how long could she live? In a marriage alliance, the role of the dead was far less than that of the living, especially when it was not the main wife. Therefore, some things still needed to be considered. Moreover, now was the time when a sharp blade was hanging over one's head. If anyone made the first move, it would mean that they were surrendering, which meant that they might betray others in order to protect themselves. How could these people allow it? It could be said that if there were any unusual movements, they would be annihilated by others. Of course, this did not include Governor Su. After all, as the boss of the county government of the same province, no one could get rid of it cleanly. Other than this, the most eye-catching person was probably the commander of the Imperial Guards, Yu Zhongqing. Primary third rank, a popular person in front of the emperor. The most important thing was that he did not have a wife or children. He was simply a big golden turtle's son-in-law. During this period of time, many people wanted to make friends with him. However, Yu Zhongqing was loyal to his duty. As the personal bodyguard of Emperor Ming, they had never seen him leave the residence alone. After leaving the residence, he was always inseparable from Jin Qinhuang Fei. Even if they did not find a chance to make friends with him, at this time, he was wearing an official's uniform and had a saber at his waist. He was very awe-inspiring. However, with his stern face and cold gaze, it seemed that he was even more unapproachable than Jin Qinhuang Fei. This was the custom of the Dragon Boat Festival. There was not much difference between Kaiming Fu and the capital. It was just that the dragon boat race was held across the canal. In comparison, this grand event far surpassed the capital. Although it happened every year, it still made people very excited. This year, the seating arrangements were slightly different. Although there were also male and female seating arrangements, Jin Qinhuang Fei and Jin Qinhuang Fei were in the middle. The two-person seating arrangement was followed by their people. Jingwan was on the left, and on the left were the other womenfolk. Li Hongyuan was on the right, and on the right were the many officials of Kaiming Fu. Li Hongyuan was not in the mood to chat with the officials. Thus there were no formal words. The dragon boat race could start. Li Hongyuan did not need to think about the prizes. Jingwan was not stingy. Perhaps she had already prepared beforehand. A set of southern pearl head ornaments. A dagger that could cut iron like mud. A recommendation letter in her name to the Minister of Personnel Affairs. And an even more extravagant banknote of 500,000 taels. After taking out these things, the others could not help but suffocate. If she lost, it would be fine. If she won, who could afford to compensate? Even if they did not know the phrase, hating the rich. At this time, many people had this kind of mentality. However, Jingwan expressed that these were not used to place bets. They were a reward for the final winner. Very good, this can be done. However, Jin Qinhuang Fei, you are such a wastrel. Does Jin Qinhuang really have no objection? Then, as the men beating the drums on the dragon boats, they received a death order from their own family and their married sisters that they must win. Each family's young master personally participated. This was a tradition of Kaiming Fu. Although there was a competitive spirit in the past, they always had to give some face to a few families. Therefore, the final winner was always one of these families. Accompanying the crown prince to study, had become a habit, so there was no competitive spirit. This year, they suddenly received such an order. While there was great pressure, they also became excited. Before it started, the flames of war had already been ignited. This is a bit of the atmosphere that should be there, Jingwan said with a smile. Inexplicably, it gave people a feeling of wanting to spend a lot of money to have fun. However, no matter what other people thought, Jin Qinhuang had no objection. There was a feeling of I spoiled it, so what? That made people want to beat him up even more. The people who deserved to be beaten were even more deserving of being beaten. And the people who wanted to be beaten were even more afraid to be beaten. The former became more and more leisurely, while the latter could only grit his teeth and hold back a mouthful of old blood in his heart. The dragon boat race started very quickly. Perhaps it was because this year's energy was particularly abundant. Everyone used all their strength to drink milk. It could be said that it was a fierce battle between dragons and tigers. You overtake me and I catch up. It was not like the previous years, where the final result was basically decided not long after it started. Li Hongyuan and Jingwan occasionally got together and whispered a few words. They talked and laughed, giving people a feeling of intimacy that outsiders could not get involved in, making people envious and jealous. Jin Qinhuang was such a high and aloof person. How could he hold such a poisonous woman in the palm of his hand? As the saying goes, one may know a person for a long time without understanding their heart. It was really appropriate to use this to describe Jin Qinhuang Fei. It was probably because he had used too much energy in the early stages that he was unable to continue in the later stages. The final result was unexpected. However, the humans in the competition were panting. Before they could cheer, there was a commotion in the stands. It was an extremely excited girl. Although she attracted a lot of attention and was somewhat embarrassed and helpless, it was still difficult to hide her excitement. Jingwan turned her head to take a look and confirmed with others that it was indeed her family, Kai Mingfu's dragon boat, that won the race. She said on the spot that she was in a good mood today and added another 300,000 taels to the reward. The mama behind her casually took out another 300,000 taels, and under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she had people send the things over. That girl disregarded her bearing and bypassed her elders, wanting to take the things over. Her goal was certainly not the money, but the people who were faster than her. Little sister, in any case, it was your elder brother who worked hard to win it. You should let him take a look first. If not, there is still Nyang. You are an unmarried girl, at least be more reserved. That girl's face was about to drip blood. She was annoyed and resentful. Enough, don't make a fool of yourself. A woman next to her took the things and placed them by her side. No one should think about moving them. It was not that no one saw that the young woman used force when her mother-in-law took the things over. Her eyes were filled with undisguised reluctance. That young girl's eyes were red, and she was about to cry. The others all pursed their lips. On the surface, they were mocking them for being petty, but in their hearts, how many people were not envious? The governor of Afu was originally the boss of the local area. However, when the county city and the Fu city overlapped, he had to stand aside. Therefore, the governor of Kai Mingfu was in a position that was neither good nor bad. It was slightly awkward. The things that were supposed to be his responsibility were often criticized by others. Sometimes he even had to lower his head and ask for guidance. It was sullen. In the past, he was not very conspicuous, but this time, he had used a special method to show his face. The prefectural official smiled at the congratulations of others, but in his heart, he was not happy at all. This was a reward, but it was also a hot potato. If he was not careful, he would be buried. Regarding Jingwan's spending, there were many people who did not understand the meaning behind it, who did not secretly speculate the meaning behind it. After all, the figure of 800,000 taels was really subtle. It was almost half of a certain number. If there was this money, many things could be covered up. These old and new sly people in the officialdom, not many would think that it really came from Jingwan's hands. Could it be that Jin Qinhuang threw it out intentionally? But how could it be? Not to mention that Jin Qinhuang took Jin Qinhuang Fei out to play all day long. The main staff that followed him were basically sent out of Kai Mingfu. The only two that did not do anything. How could he know about Kai Ming Fu? But 800,000 taels, it was really too much of a coincidence. The more they felt that it was impossible, the more they felt that there was a problem. Governor Darren, who was played the most miserably by Li Hongyuan, could not sit still at this moment. His heart was beating like a drum, and he could not help but look at Governor Su. But the other party was still as motionless as a mountain. No one could see what he was thinking. Perhaps he felt the governor's gaze. He even looked back and smiled indifferently. Subsequently, Li Hongyuan expressed that he was in a good mood. The dragon boat race would start another round, and the winner would be rewarded with 800,000 taels. As soon as these words came out, Governor Su's hand could not help but tighten the teacup in his hand. What was more subtle was that the second round was still won by the dragon boat, led by the governor's son. The governor's back was directly soaked. Sitting, his legs were trembling, and the sweat on his forehead slid down. There were only 2 words left in his heart. Finished. After the dragon boat race ended, Jin Qinhuang used the humid air near the water, and the weather was hot. He was worried that his Wang Fei would not be able to stand it, and changed the location. Jingwan did not refute, and just stood beside Li Hongyuan with a smile. How others criticized her had nothing to do with her. Fortunately, she was already prepared. It was not a big deal to change the location. It was just that it was not obvious at first. Jingwan felt more and more obvious at this moment, as if there were some things that she did not know. Jingwan called Gong Mama to ask. Gong Mama left for a while, and came back to report to Jingwan in full detail. Su Wanting died yesterday? A few days ago, she went out and was frightened and fell ill. In the end, she could not bear it? On the Immortals viewing platform, the news of me throwing a girl down was spread like a nose and eyes. It is said that the girl was Su Wanting? Oh, this is quite interesting. Jingwan smiled. This killing incident, when it happened to a good person, compared to when it happened to a bad person, it would cause a lot more reactions. This matter, Wang Ye should have a clear idea in his heart. Then you don't have to worry about it. This Kaming Fu was indeed not a simple place. However, presumably, they would leave soon. If it was like this here, then what about the center of this incident? Jingwan was inexplicably looking forward to it. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653514. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bikaga mobile reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 287. After that, everything went smoothly, including the banquet. Everything was peaceful. There was nothing good without a banquet. Jingwan wondered if she was overthinking things. Even when they returned to the courtyard, nothing had happened. Jingwan blinked. Had it really ended just like that? Li Hongyuan found it funny. Wanwan really wanted something to happen. That's not it. I just think that something will happen sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it'll be quite annoying if something happens when you're in a good mood. Don't worry. The good show will happen at night. If it doesn't happen during the day, it won't continue to drag on. I've told them that if they miss today, they won't have another chance. After all, they'll be reduced to lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Li Hongyuan looked at the side courtyard meaningfully. Maybe the good show will happen one after another. Anyway, you won't be disappointed. Although she didn't know the specific plan, she could roughly guess it. However, Wanwan might not be able to sleep well tonight. That's not a big deal. If we can't sleep well, there will definitely be someone who can't sleep well. Whether they can sleep well or not has nothing to do with us. If they make Wanwan unable to sleep well, I'll be very unhappy. If you're unhappy, then let them sleep more restlessly. Not only tonight, but also many nights in the future. Until they go where they should go, and everything is settled, they know that a certain path is their final destination. When their hearts are at ease, they'll die, Jingwan said lightly. Jingwan wasn't happy either. Li Hongyuan basically didn't hide the situation in Kaming Prefecture, and even the entire Tongzhou Prefecture from her. They were a bunch of vermin and vampires, squeezing the people's wealth and filling their own pockets. In the end, there was a huge deficit of more than 1 million taels. This was only the amount from Kaming Prefecture. Adding the amount from other prefectures, Jingwan even believed that just the entire Tongzhou Prefecture alone was probably half the amount of silver written in De Li's secret memorial when he became emperor. Adding the entire Jiangnan, and then the entire Jiangnan, haha, more than 10 million taels was nothing. Speaking of which, it took a lot of effort for Li Hongyuan to be able to grasp the situation so clearly. It wasn't just a day or two, nor was it a month or two. A few years ago, when he started to place people in various places, he had already been laying the groundwork. He walked step by step until today. When the time was almost right, he revealed it. His purpose was to ruthlessly clean up the officialdom in Jiangnan. It wasn't to say how many people would lose their positions or their lives, but to straighten things out and spit out what he had eaten. Of course, those who should be killed would be killed, and those who should be forgiven would be forgiven. Those who were left behind, it wasn't that the King of Hell suddenly became benevolent, but that the debts owed would be repaid in a lifetime. This was the true nature of the King of Hell. After entering the main courtyard, Jingwan saw an unexpected person. After the other party greeted her, she asked, "Lord Li, you're back today?" "Your Highness, I arrived an hour ago," Li Suyan said respectfully. Jingwan nodded. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Li Suyan's cold and ruthless aura had become stronger. She looked at Li Hongyuan. "Then I'll go and rest for a while?" "Wan, I'm afraid you won't be able to rest. You should change into some simple and refreshing clothes. You have to leave Kaming Mansion tonight." Jingwan glanced at Li Suyan again. In other words, this person's return was actually some kind of signal. Okay. After Jingwan left, Li Suyan reported the results of this trip to Li Hongyuan. The actual situation is far more serious than what His Majesty received from the secret memorial. For out of the 100 black-robed guards have been killed. In addition, I also found out another thing. 3 years ago, there were 50,000 people who survived the earthquake in Minshan County. In fact, there were only 20,000 people. The silver allocated by the imperial court to settle the 50,000 people was all embezzled. And those 20,000 people, Li Hongyuan's face was cold. They were secretly executed. It was not a question but a certainty. His voice was so cold that there was no trace of warmth. Yes. The coldness on Li Suyan's face was not much less than Li Hongyuan's. Because of the earthquake, the people who were buried alive did not speak. After the earthquake, there was an epidemic that killed many people. And those who were alive were mixed in with the dead, and were all burned alive. It was a coincidence that I knew about this. It turned out that there was a survivor who saw with his own eyes that his family was thrown into the pile of dead people. No matter if he was a coward or endured the humiliation, in short, he did not come out. Relying on his familiarity with the terrain, he hid here and there, and actually escaped the search of the officers and soldiers. Even when the officers and soldiers were searching, he casually revealed some things with a smile. Although his words were not clear, but he was a scholar, and had passed the Shiozai examination. He was the pride of the village, and too many people had placed their hopes on him. In the end, from those words, the truth was most likely broken. He became a beggar, and did not forget the deep-seated hatred for a moment. He thought of ways to take revenge, but he was a dead person, and had no money on him. Even if he wanted to enter the capital to lodge a complaint, he could not move an inch. Hatred tortured him every day. And he was originally the kind of person who was obsessed with studying. In order to take revenge, he could put down his dignity and beg for food. But it could not change the fact that he was powerless. When he first arrived and did not know the rules, he was beaten up by other beggars. He never knew how he survived. Li Suyan was acting under Li Hongyuan's orders. The 50 black-robed guards, including him, were not secretly investigating, but walking around in a very high-profile manner. Although he did not understand Li Hongyuan's intention, he only followed orders, and then received such a reward. Where is he now? Li Hongyuan asked. Speaking of which, this was not a small matter. Li Hongyuan did not hear anything about it in his previous life. It could be seen that it was completely concealed. But this time, once the matter was investigated, the relevant personnel, from the county magistrate, governor, to the low-ranking officers and soldiers who participated in it, could not think of getting away with it. That person's health is not good. It is not suitable for him to travel far. To avoid alerting the enemy, he was not touched, only sent people to watch him. How many of your men came back? Although he had sent out 50 black-robed guards early on the ship, but in reality, replying to your highness, 50 of them are the hidden ones, and the other 3 came back with me. How did the 4 people who went and die? They were schemed against. Li Suyan said coldly, but did not want to say more. But anyone could feel that his mood was quite bad. He did not want to say, and Li Hongyuan did not ask. After all, they were not his men, so it did not matter. After returning, settle their families. I will pay for it. Thank you, your highness. Whether Jin Qinhuang wanted to buy people's hearts, or simply wanted to take care of the black-robed guards' families, he would accept this favor. Go and prepare, we will leave tonight. Yes. After Li Suyan left, Annie came forward. Master, regarding Governor Su, I have investigated clearly. After spending so much time, it should not disappoint. Li Hongyuan took the letter that Annie presented. It was quite thick. Opening it, Li Hongyuan looked carefully page by page. His speed was very fast. After reading it, he even smiled. My Qi Yuan dynasty is really a crouching tiger and hidden dragon. Talented people come out in large numbers. He handed all the letters to Yu Zhongqing. Yu Zhongqing was slightly stunned. He probably did not think that Li Hongyuan would show it to him. But he did not ask and took it. Although the first part was very surprising, it was not enough to make his face change color. But when he saw a certain page at the back, Yu Zhongqing's eyes spewed out a strong hatred and killing intent, as if he wanted to burn through the paper. His hands trembled because of this. The veins on the back of his hands jumped. The next moment, he suddenly dropped the letter in his hand, turned and left, his hand holding the hilt, without Li Hongyuan's order. Annie came forward to stop him. But Yu Zhongqing did not hesitate to pull out the sword. Annie was also caught off guard. If it was not for the strong sense of danger as a shadow guard, his body moved faster than his mind, and he quickly turned sideways. That sword would have fallen on his body. This was not good. The other guards immediately came forward to help. But because An Yi knew all the contents of the letter, he knew the reason why Yu Zhongqing was so abnormal. So he reminded his brothers not to hurt him. In the eyes of these people, the meaning of not hurting was not to hurt the tendons and bones, lose an arm or break a leg. As for the rest, no matter what the reason was, just beat them up violently. Yu Zhongqing's skills were extraordinary. But could Li Hongyuan's guards be bad? What's more, An Yi, who held 2 positions, had a lot of fast, accurate, and ruthless killing methods. At the same time, there were also a lot of methods to beat people to the bone. Therefore, Yu Zhongqing, who had his sword taken away, was tragically beaten to the ground. Li Hongyuan watched leisurely from the side until Yu Zhongqing was forced to kneel in front of him. Are you calm? Yu Zhongqing lowered his head and did not say a word, as if he did not feel the pain in his body. As for the other small fries, I'll find a chance for you to deal with them yourself after this mission. It's up to you to decide whether you want to kill them or let them go. However, you should know that we can't touch old dog Su for the time being. A slight move in one part will affect the whole situation. Now, even if we're in the dark and they're in the light, it'll be difficult for the rest of the fishes to touch their tails. Li Hongyuan was a little patient, which was rare for him. Yu Zhongqing continued to be silent for a moment. He struggled, and the 2 guards who were pressing him released him. I was reckless, your highness, please forgive me. I'll let it go this time. But if there is a next time, it won't be so easy. When the matter is over, I will hand him over to you to deal with. Thank you, your highness. Go and deal with the injury. Yes. Li Hongyuan looked at the letter that Eunuch Mu picked up from the table. Speaking of which, it was better to come at the right time than to come at the right time. The news was the same, but now he needed to make some arrangements. Jingwan changed her clothes and came over. When she saw the letter, she curiously picked it up and read it. After reading it, she did not look too good. These people are really not to be underestimated. The Qi Yuan dynasty is like a sieve. There are loopholes everywhere. Speaking of which, most of the Qi Yuan's territory is fertile and rich in resources. Many people want to take a bite of it. However, to put it bluntly, Qi Yuan's national power, ever since the previous emperor, has been going downhill, and now. Wan, you don't have to look at me. You can say whatever you want about him. You don't have to worry about me. In fact, I know much more than you. He is definitely worse than you think, and incompetent. Li Hongyuan really wasn't belittling his old man. Just like in his previous life, if his old man was really more powerful, and his methods were more unyielding, it wouldn't be to the extent that Qi Yuan almost lost his life because of his sons fighting for the throne. It was said that although Lu Qingdi was not very ambitious, and was not good at attacking, he was good at defending. Was that really the case? Li Hongyuan did not think so. If Lu Qingdi took over the powerful Qi Yuan, he might be able to withstand it. However, as Wan said, Lu Qingdi took over the declining Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan was declining, but other countries were facing it head-on. In this way, it seemed that Lu Qingdi was defending what he had. But in fact, if he did not advance, it was equivalent to retreating. If he could sit on the throne for another 10 years, he would definitely become the emperor of a fallen country. However, with Li Hongyuan around, even if Lu Qingdi had a long life, he would not be able to sit on the throne for that long. It was impossible for him to be a puppet emperor. Of course, the reason why Li Hongyuan cared so much about Qi Yuan was because of Jingwan. If Jingwan was not around, and he lived the same life as in his previous life, he would most likely sit on the sidelines and watch the show while eating melon seeds. In any case, even if the capital was attacked, he could escape unscathed. The world was big, and he could do whatever he wanted. If he was bored one day, he would become a traitor of the previous dynasty and cause trouble for the countries that overthrew the Qi Yuan or divided the Qi Yuan. However, the trouble caused by the King of Hell was not something that ordinary people could bear. However, why do I feel that there is a small problem with these things? Jingwan frowned slightly. Oh, what do you mean? Li Hongyuan tilted his head slightly to look at Jingwan and asked curiously. Jingwan thought for a moment and organized her thoughts. I don't know if it's because I have a different understanding of it, but I feel that some things are not very coherent. It's as if there is a missing link. Even though the content does not look out of place when put together, it still feels a little forced. Jingwan then pointed out the part that was puzzling her. Wan is very sharp. However, the first and third links may not be the only links that can be linked to the second link. The first link is indispensable. The later links that can be linked to the second link may be the fourth link, the fifth link, or even the seventh or eighth link. What a yuan means is that there may be more than one link missing in the middle, but there may be several links missing. Wan is smart. The conversation between the two made In Yi's back break out in a cold sweat, because it took a long time and involved thousands of li, and not just one place. He had repeatedly requested that no suspicious clues should be missed. He had also considered the gathered information himself, and only presented it when he felt that there was no problem. In the end, even Wang Fei saw the problem with one glance, let alone Master. Master didn't point it out at the first moment, and didn't even show the slightest difference. Just thinking about it made him tremble a little. Moreover, the efficiency this time was very low, and such a mistake appeared. It was simply unforgivable. And he immediately knelt down and asked for forgiveness. Jingwan was startled, then immediately smiled and said, "Since there is a mistake, do your best to remedy it. Give me some personal opinions, and reorganize it from the beginning to the end. Don't be affected by the original information. Otherwise, it's easy to have a preconceived idea. It's very likely that you will be misled or overlook something." Annie secretly glanced at Li Hongyuan. Seeing that he didn't have any objections, and there was no change in his expression, he gathered his courage and said, "Many thanks for Wang Fei's guidance. This subordinate will let people investigate again." Jingwan nodded. You should have your own set of rules when doing things. Rewards and punishments are clear. You should understand what should be done now. Yes, this subordinate understands. Then you can go. And he retreated. Jingwan turned back and met Li Hongyuan's smiling face. Instead, she righteously raised her chin slightly. What I did or said was wrong. Yes, there's nothing wrong. Li Hongyuan pulled Jingwan over and let her sit on his lap. He pinched her chin. Wanwan is also very good at playing with advancing in order to retreat. What I don't understand. Jingwan snorted. You don't understand? It doesn't matter. This husband will break it down bit by bit and explain it to you. You will definitely understand. You let an E receive the punishment by himself. Aren't you worried that this prince's punishment will be too heavy? Originally, you directly pleaded for leniency, but now you've learned to beat around the bush. Tell me, are you becoming more soft-hearted, or what? What? Wang Yi Wang Fei, it's time to go. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/66535518. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website. mbicken.com. Chapter 288. Jingwan was quite happy to be interrupted by Granny Gong. She looked at Li Hongyuan with a smile. Seeing that his face was a little dark, she held his face and kissed him on the lips. Yuan, you're not going to change? This outfit of yours isn't much better than the one I was wearing before. He stretched out his hand and tugged at his broad shoulders. Wan, how long do you think it will take for me to change? Do you think everyone is like you, dilly-dallying for half a day? Li Hongyuan pinched the tip of her nose naughtily. He was a little rough. Jingwan slapped the back of his hand. What do you mean everyone is like me? There are many people slower than me. Although she had put on makeup today, she did not have to put it on again after washing it off. Many women put in a lot of effort to ensure that they would always have the most perfect image in front of their husbands. I don't know how others are like, but I know how Wanwan is like. Li Hongyuan teased. Seeing that Jingwan was grinding her teeth, as if she was going to bite him, he helped her up. Let's go. It's a little earlier than expected, but it's good. Maybe we can have a good sleep later in the night. He took her hand and walked out. Outside the door, there were not only people waiting to serve her, but Muan was also holding clothes. Then a certain someone put on a good show in front of her. The clothes that usually looked complicated and difficult to put on and take off were simply like magic in his hands. Moreover, his movements were also smooth and did not appear to be flustered at all. Did he even take half a minute to change into his capable and experienced clothes? You're a prince who has been served since he was a child. Is it really good for him to be so good at doing things? Jingwan mourned for her ability to take care of herself at a younger age. To be honest, she was almost half disabled in this aspect. Jingwan didn't know how she managed to avoid all the eyes around her. But she didn't cause any commotion along the way. Because there was no light, the moonlight on the 5th day of the lunar month. It was dark all the way. However, Li Hongyuan held Jingwan in his arms, so she didn't have to use her eyes. They walked very smoothly and didn't stumble. Whether it was the people leading the way in front, or the people following behind, they were all very quiet. Jingwan thought that there might be a carriage at the door, but there wasn't. After walking for a while, she entered another door. There were a few dim lanterns lit here. This is the house next door? Is this the place we're going to? It was different from what he had expected. Li Hongyuan chuckled. What else did Wanwan think? Leaving the city now. There's a curfew and the city gates are closed. Are you going to climb the walls to get out? Jingwan's face couldn't help but darken. She had been misled by the idea of leaving the city in the middle of the night, and made a common mistake. Then may I ask your highness, how are we going to get out of the city? She gritted her teeth. Didn't they say that the city gates are closed? Of course, we have to wait until someone opens the gates, Li Hongyuan said matter-of-factly. His eyes seemed to say, "Why did Wan become so stupid?" Jingwan's anger was stuck in her throat. She couldn't spit it out or swallow it. Li Hongyuan's character was really infuriating sometimes. He only teased Jingwan occasionally. It was a kind of fun. If he could make her angry, she could imagine the grief and indignation of other people, especially when they were deliberately targeted by him. He knew what she was asking, but he deliberately played along. Jingwan couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. His wife was angry, so he had to quickly coax her. "It's my fault. Wan, don't be angry. The following matters have already been arranged. Originally, we might have to find a way to open the city gates ourselves. Now there will naturally be someone to open the gates for us. We just have to wait." Jingwan expressed that she wasn't a kitten or a puppy. She would be fine after being teased and coaxed. Next, it was time for our Jin Qinhuang to coax his wife. It made the people around them want to retreat and completely disappear. Their teeth were about to ache. Your Highness, I know that you two love each other. But can you restrain yourself a little? Even if it's your own people, please don't hurt them like this." Mu Gonggong expressed that he wanted to find a servant girl to pair up with. His eyes glanced at Jingwan's several servant girls. He quickly turned his gaze away and dispelled the idea. Not to mention the head servant girls by Wang Fei's side. Even if it was those little servant girls in Wangfu, if he dared to casually reach out, Wang Fei would chop him up. It wasn't that no one was willing to follow him, but that kind of person definitely had a purpose. If it wasn't because of his status, it was because they wanted to inquire about his master's matters through him. So after thinking about it, he decided to forget about it. Mu Gonggong was very self-aware. He was very clear that because he knew too many things about Master, it was best for him not to have too much involvement with irrelevant people in this life. If he was well-behaved, he might be able to live a life of glory, splendor and wealth. If he had any thoughts, he never thought that Master would be soft-hearted. Your Highness, it's starting over there." "What's starting?" Jingwan was confused. However, it should be something that had been arranged or expected to happen. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand. Wan, come with me." Originally, she wasn't very angry. At this time, Jingwan naturally followed Li Hongyuan. There was a 3-story attic in this residence. Standing on the 3rd floor, one could see the courtyard that belonged to the governor. At this moment, basically nothing could be seen. However, Jingwan inexplicably felt a sense of tension. Li Hongyuan stroked Jingwan's back as if to comfort her, but he remained silent. Because there was no light, Jingwan couldn't see his expression, but she felt that he was expressionless at this time. He was indifferent and ruthless, as if he was a god standing in the 9th heaven. He was not compassionate, but absolutely superior. Those who offended him should be prepared to bear his anger. But soon, Jingwan knew what was going on, because there were several flames inside and outside the courtyard at the same time, and the fire was quite fierce. It could be seen that there was something at it. Jingwan's pupil shrank fiercely. Weren't these people too bold? How dare they set fire to the courtyard? Were they determined to kill all of them? However, there was a question. They set fire so blatantly. Did they really think that there were dead people in the courtyard? There was no movement before, so they should have thought that there was no one left. Why would they set fire to the courtyard? No, there's another situation. That is, they knew that the people in the courtyard were dead asleep. But the people in the back of the courtyard were people we brought from the Wangfu. Did something happen to them? Or were they controlled by someone? Wan, do you think it's the former or the latter? Li Hongyuan asked as if nothing had happened. It's not what I think it is. However, Jingwan already had an answer in her heart. Because Jingwan believed that there was absolutely no problem with the guards in the courtyard. With them there was no reason for outsiders to take advantage of and enter the courtyard to kidnap and drug the chefs. But as far as she knew, the chefs that were brought out this time had been in the Jin Wangfu for at least 3 years, and had always been well. It could be seen how deep they were hidden. Or perhaps they were hidden chess pieces. They didn't do anything on normal days, only leaving them for crucial moments. But they had all left. The number of people was not small. Was there really no one who suspected? Also, the people who didn't leave with them, were they going to be buried in the sea of fire? Jingwan couldn't help but clench her fists. Her expression was very ugly. Li Hongyuan seemed to know what she was thinking. There are our substitutes in the courtyard. These people are not ordinary people. Because they had already taken precautions, this is just a show to beat them at their own game. As for the others, knowing that you are soft-hearted and can't bear to see innocent people die, we have already let them return to their own residences. You will know when you see. Right now they are far from being affected. As for the future, rest assured, there will be people coming back to be good people. Unless they are too unlucky, no one will die. Jingwan breathed a sigh of relief. Her tense body gradually relaxed. She hugged Li Hongyuan from the side. Yuan, thank you. Jingwan was very clear that because of her, this man spent more energy and did a lot of things that he wouldn't do originally. Jingwan was very happy, not only because he did this for her, but also because no matter what the reason was, at least he was no longer so cold and ruthless. She didn't want him to create too many obstacles. However, you are the most important. When other people or things don't conflict with you, it's fine to do it in passing. If it hinders you or even threatens you, you don't have to ask. If unrelated people get involved because of us, I may feel uncomfortable. But if something happens to you, I may be in so much pain that I wish I was dead. Towards Jingwan's more and more straightforward words of love, Li Hongyuan naturally enjoyed it. Wan, don't worry. I know what's important. At this moment, there was an unforeseen event in the courtyard. The people who were supposed to be dead asleep seemed to have woken up. In an instant, the whole courtyard was in an uproar. Not only were there people shouting to put out the fire, there were also people shouting to kill. The flames soared into the sky and set off the chaotic figures. Accompanied by, Your Highness, Princess Consort is still in the room, hurry. Although it wasn't particularly clear, but inexplicably, Jingwan heard similar words very clearly. Her heart trembled. Then, Jingwan seemed to hear Yu Zhongqing's voice. Yuan, Lord Yu, not everyone can be a substitute. Otherwise, it's easy to reveal flaws. Moreover, he's not happy in his heart and needs to vent. After seeing everything about Governor Su, Jingwan naturally knew the reason why Yu Zhongqing was unhappy. Therefore, she kept silent. These people are the official army of the Kaming Mansion? Someone really dared to make such a bold move. Most likely. However, the number of people is estimated to be at most 100. After this incident, regardless of whether they live or die, these people's identities are probably bandits. They are more likely to be the remnants of the previous dynasty. They hate the imperial court. With such a flamboyant prince from the Kaming Mansion, the other party sneaked into the city early and found an opportunity to launch a night attack. This title may be far-fetched, but since things have come to this point, regardless of whether they participate or not, they will definitely work together in order to protect themselves. Then, they will jointly ask for forgiveness from the emperor. The emperor may be angry, but it is impossible for him to behead all of them, especially when you are still alive and well. It's a good plan. However, these people will lose their lives for nothing. Their families may not even get any benefits. There were always some people who didn't take other people's lives seriously. No matter who is the instigator or the participant, no one can escape from this incident. It's fine on the surface, but secretly, I will definitely make them suffer a fate worse than death. At this time, Li Hongyuan was ruthless, but Jingwan was not the least bit surprised. Because of the noise, the surrounding houses also lit up their lights. Jingwan and the others also lit up their lights, but like the other houses, they did not open the door to go out. Jingwan could roughly understand their thoughts. They all knew what kind of people lived there. Even if they realized that something might have happened, they would not go up to avoid attracting trouble. The reinforcements are here, Li Hongyuan said lightly. Jingwan, who was looking at the fire in a daze, came back to her senses when she heard that. Then, she also noticed that something was wrong. On the other side of the house, a group of at least 500 people holding torches and riding horses galloped over. Just when Jingwan was guessing who brought the reinforcements, Li Hongyuan seemed to be performing a magic trick and handed a clairvoyant to her. Jingwan paused and took it. In fact, she wanted to say, "Dear, you are simply a treasure chest." Jingwan raised the clairvoyant and looked carefully. She found a more special position in the group. The seemingly elegant man was riding on the horse with an anxious face. He was swaying on the horse, but he kept shouting, "Hurry, hurry, hurry." Who else could it be but Governor Su? And around him, there were a few other people. Although they were not wearing official uniforms, they should be military officers. Yuan knew that he would come? Seeing Li Hongyuan's confident attitude before, how could Jingwan not know? Since this person has some guesses about me, then he will not easily take risks, let alone wallow in the mire with others. This kind of person, if it is not 100% certain, he will never let himself get involved. Even if he does it, he will do it cleanly. He is very familiar with using others to do his dirty work. Not only that, he will not let go of such a good opportunity to perform meritorious deeds. Is there anyone scarier than this kind of person in the world? Jingwan whispered. Yes, your husband is me. Don't you see that no matter what he does, your husband is still better than him? Li Hongyuan laughed. Your skin is thicker than the city wall. What's one time? If you can beat him every time and suppress him until the end, no matter how unwilling he is, he will not be able to make a comeback. Then, it will not be too late for you to say this. Jingwan refuted him without holding back. Then Wan, let's wait and see. Due to the arrival of Governor Su and his men, the originally chaotic situation in the courtyard was quickly brought under control. For some unknown reason, these people did not show any mercy to the black-clothed men who committed the crime. They directly killed them without mercy. The bloody scene was reflected in Jingwan's eyes frame by frame. Jingwan's face turned pale, and her hands trembled. Li Hongyuan wanted to take off her clairvoyance, but she stubbornly continued to watch. Li Hongyuan did not quite understand what she was thinking at this time, but he did not insist on stopping her. And in one of the scenes, although Jingwan could not hear it, she could basically guess that the rescuer and the bandit were acquaintances at that time, or even good brothers. https://www.com/11/11807/66535520 HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com mobile version reading website bicken.com. Chapter 289. And among them, there was a scene, although Jingwan could not hear it, but she could basically guess that the reinforcements and the bandits were acquaintances, or even good brothers. The bandits were masked, and the soldier was in uniform. At first, perhaps because of the chaos, the soldier did not recognize the bandits, but the bandits could see each other clearly. The bandits were shocked, and because they were familiar with each other, they subconsciously retreated. But when they retreated, Bing excitedly rushed forward and mercilessly stabbed the bandits with his knife. One must know, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and every one of them had a part to play. When there was no war, to these small soldiers, wanting to be promoted was basically impossible, and this time, many people were fighting for this opportunity. Perhaps the bandit did not think that it would be like this. His eyes suddenly burst open, and at the same time made a sound, and Bing seemed to have just realized something. In a breath of time, his pupils suddenly shrank, from doubt, to suspicion, to disbelief, and then to fear and trembling. No! He hugged the bandit's tottering body. This was probably the only word that Jingwan could distinguish, but that heart-wrenching. Even if the voice could not be heard, it was clearly felt, and Jingwan's body could not help but tremble slightly. Li Hongyuan knew. Jingwan probably saw a very stimulating scene, and did not have the slightest hesitation, and took the clairvoyance. This time Jingwan did not hold on to it. Li Hongyuan used the clairvoyance to sweep a glance at the place that Jingwan was looking at. What Jingwan could guess, he could naturally guess. Compared to Jingwan's huge emotional impact, Li Hongyuan's emotions did not fluctuate at all. But at this time he did not know how to comfort her. and could not empathize with her. Some words would be too empty, and might even have the opposite effect. So it was better not to say, and just tightly held her in his arms. Li Hongyuan took another look, and suddenly felt a little lucky that Jingwan did not continue to look, because if she did, he was afraid that she would not be able to bear it. All of this was because the soldier was hugging the bandit. His lips were trembling, and before he could say anything, the pain on his face had not subsided at all. He was forcefully pulled away by another person. With one look, one could tell that it was his superior. He only said one sentence, but the soldier looked like he was about to break down. The superior did not hesitate to pull out his sword and let the bandit fall to the ground. He even kicked the soldier and chased him away quickly. That was just a bandit, a real bandit. It had nothing to do with them. The bandit fell to the ground, his eyes as big as copper bells, and died with grievances. Do you want to kill everyone? Of course, these bandits' identities were exposed. When the time came, the corpses would be piled up into mountains. Jingwan knew that under the feudal dynasty, the people at the top regarded the people at the bottom as weeds, and killing and seizing was just a matter of words. The so-called prince who broke the law was guilty of the same crime as commoners. That was simply a joke among jokes. However, this was the first time she truly experienced this kind of blood and cruelty. When the Son of Heaven is angry, millions of corpses will fall. This is not nonsense. Li Hongyuan murmured. Jingwan knew the meaning of his words, but her heart still could not relax. Moreover, Governor Su's face was filled with fear and trepidation as he found Jin Qinhuang and Jin Qinhuang Fei. Jin Qinhuang Fei was unconsciously leaning on Jin Qinhuang, and Jin Qinhuang Fei had disheveled hair and was only wearing an inner garment. The originally snow-white clothes were now full of black ash, and the hostility around his body could be felt from far away. Governor Su's heart could not help but thump, and he did not dare to approach, and knelt far away to beg for forgiveness, and behind him were several other officials. Atonement? This kind of thing, when is it your turn as a governor to ask? Jin Qinhuang Fei's voice was as cold as ice, not knowing if it was because this person imitated too well, or because of the distance. Governor Su did not have any doubts about his identity. At this moment, he trembled as he opened his mouth. Wang Ye, you know, during the Dragon Boat Festival, with you and Wang Fei present, this is a rare happy occasion. This official is happy, so we drank a few more cups. Because this official's health was not good these 2 days, I overstepped my boundaries. It is this official's fault. Fortunately, Wang Ye and Wang Fei are fine, otherwise, this official will not be able to absolve ourselves from the blame, even if we die 10,000 times. After not getting a response for a long time, Governor Su's palms were sweating. Even if he knew that Jin Qinhuang Fei was not ordinary, but how could he guarantee that the Jin Qinhuang Fei on the surface was not a part of him? Encountering this kind of person who acted according to common sense, no matter how resourceful he was, there was a possibility that he would stumble and lose his life. Then there would be nothing left. However, he could not come. If Jin Qinhuang Fei was really like what he expected, wanting him to lose his life, the possibility was not big. Once he escaped this calamity, when he returned to settle accounts, he would definitely not be able to escape responsibility. Therefore, he could not gamble. Moreover, if he won, it would be of great benefit to him. From the current situation, at least half of the gamble was right. If he did not bring anyone, tonight's matter would not be successful. Such a big Kai Ming Fu, if he did not do anything, thinking about the consequences. Jin Qinhuang Fei naturally knew that some people were drunk. If he did not find an excuse, how could he avoid tonight's matter? However, according to Master's temperament, did he think that it would be over if he avoided it? Just wait. Even if Master was at the ends of the earth, if he wanted to deal with you, it would only be a matter of a word. Someone come, return to the ship. As he spoke, he carried Jin Qinhuang Fei horizontally. Governor Su was not sure of his attitude, so naturally he did not dare to say half a word. Returning to the ship at this time was also within his expectations. After all, Jin Qinhuang Fei carried a lot of luggage. Although it looked like a lot, It was only a part of it. Looking at the intensity of the fire, it was most likely burned away. According to Jin Qin Wang Fei's degree of pickiness, he naturally would not use the things prepared by others. When people boarded the ship, compared to unloading the luggage, it was naturally much simpler. Governor Su wanted to follow behind Jin Qin Wang Fei, but Yu Zhongqing stepped forward and easily replaced his position. It had to be said that Yu Zhongqing was quite amazing to be able to keep calm and not show any emotion when facing Governor Su. Just imagine, when he saw that the extermination of his family had a lot to do with old dog Su, and that he was most likely the person behind the scenes, his madness and hatred for killing people could not be shown. Even a person like Governor Su did not notice anything. It could be seen that when a person's hatred reached an extraordinary level, it might reach another extreme. Jin Qin Wang Fei rode a horse straight to the city gate with Jin Qin Wang Fei. Most of the people accompanying them were not very presentable, but now they did not say a word. The atmosphere looked quite heavy, especially those guards. Most of them were drenched. It was obvious that they had been thoroughly splashed with water. With the current situation, they could not absolve themselves from the blame for not being able to protect Wang Ye's safety. If it was not for Wang Ye's guards who were alert, and Wang Yi himself was not ordinary, who knew what the consequences would be, just thinking about it made them shudder with fear. The anger in their hearts was not just a little bit. They wished that they could chop those people into minced meat. But now that Wang Yi wanted to board the ship to wash up, no matter how much anger they had to hold it in. Jin Qin Wang Fei wanted to leave the city and board the ship. What was the matter with the curfew? The ferry that was sealed at night had to be opened immediately. Not long after this group of people left the city, another group of people appeared. Coincidentally, there wasn't a single guard at the city gate, so they easily achieved their goal. Jingwan was also riding on the same horse as Li Hongyuan. Nestled in Li Hongyuan's arms, she knew that these guards were most likely led away by the people in front. But what was it? Leaving the city gate unattended? Was it because they were confident that there would not be any problems in the prefectural city? Or was it because Jin Qin Wang Fei's prestige was too great, that he was in a fit of anger, and no one dared to touch him? Yuan, where are we going now? Are we going by land? There are 28 prefectures in the 4 counties of Jiangnan. This time, no matter if it was the academy examinations or the SALT policy, the scope involved was quite wide. The academy examinations covered at least half of the prefectures, and the SALT policy need not be mentioned. There was not a single prefecture that was left behind. The only difference was whether it was serious or not. After the foreshadowing in the early stages, and the long-term investigation in the past, we can almost wrap it up. Those people all thought that I was too happy in Kaiming Fu, that I forgot what my surname was. They tried every means to erase the evidence, and also wanted to divert the disaster to the people of Tongzhou Prefecture. And these people from Kaiming Fu dared to kill me. It was not without their involvement. When they think that they can sit back and relax, I have to let them know what it means to fail at the last step. I have to let them know that even if it is something that has been decided, it can be overturned, not to mention this thing that has not been decided. And the next destination was also the prefectural city, after Kaiming Fu, Chongzhou Prefecture. But we will stay in Chongzhou for at most 1 or 2 days. After that, Chuanzhou Prefecture is the main event. When we are close to Chongzhou, we will continue to take the water route. Before that, Wan, you may have to work a little harder and spend most of your time riding with me. How about it? This is nothing. I am really not that delicate. Li Hongyuan's side face rubbed against the hair on the top of her head. When this matter is over, we will spend more time in Jiangnan and have fun. If you want, we can continue to go south. Have you seen the sea before? I heard that it is vast and boundless, and the waves are magnificent. When you face it, you can't help but feel lofty. Heard? No, Li Hongyuan had been to the coastal area more than once. Of course, it was in his previous life. According to the timeline, it was still in the future. But had Jingwan seen it before? Of course, on yachts, cruise ships, and even diving. She had personally experienced the beautiful scenery of the shallow sea. I have seen it in my dreams. Li Hongyuan almost instantly understood in his heart. Then let's verify whether they are the same in reality. After the official business is done, it is good enough that we can stay for a while. You still want to continue going south. Don't daydream. If we anger His Majesty, he will imprison us in the capital and not give us a chance to leave the capital. Then, the gains will not make up for the losses. It is not too late to discuss everything when you are fully in charge. Wan is so considerate. She can be arrogant because she is pampered. Why can't she be willful for once? Jingwan was helpless. It is not something that must be done. Even if I don't do it, I won't feel uncomfortable. So why should I be willful? I am simply looking for trouble. Do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Don't always think of spoiling me. When the time comes, you will have a headache. Don't think about nonsense all day. Wan, do you mean that I am a 3-year-old child? After all, I am famous for being willful and doing whatever I want. Yes, you are self-aware. Jingwan nodded with a smile. Can a 3-year-old child consummate the marriage with you? Can a 3-year-old child do that with you anytime and anywhere? Jingwan subconsciously pinched him. This man's mouth was so dirty from time to time. Shut up. Don't misinterpret my meaning. Then what does Wan mean? Let me put it another way. Can a 3-year-old child ride a horse and tour the mountains and rivers with you? A 3-year-old child. Okay, you win. Pretend I didn't say anything. Jingwan would always lose in a war of words. If we don't take the waterway, is there still danger? It is obvious. Old dog Su may be so eager to save people now, but that is because as long as we are still in the territory of Tongzhou, no matter big or small, as long as something happens, they will not be able to escape responsibility. When the officials of the 4 counties in Jiangnan know that we left Kaiming Prefecture in such a sorry state, who knows if they will not stop until they have evil intentions and can even frame Kaiming Prefecture. Therefore, the waterway before reaching Chongzhou Prefecture on the canal is the real danger. Jingwan's heart tightened. Thinking carefully, it was indeed so. Then the people on the boat. Don't worry. They can handle it. Everything has been arranged accordingly. No matter what kind of sudden situation, there will not be a problem. That's good. Jingwan believed him. If he said there would not be a problem, then there would definitely not be a problem. Her mood also relaxed slightly. That's why I told you not to bring so many things. Now it's good. Forget about burning a part of it. The rest will most likely be fed to the fish. The fish do not have that ability. I have already had people move the things on the boat away. A new boat has long been prepared 30 li away from Chongzhou Prefecture. However, it is not an official boat, but a private boat. This prince had originally worked hard to build a boat that could swim freely on the waterway. The previous official boat was to shut the mouth of the one on the throne. If the changes were too much, it would make people feel that they had lost face. He would probably nag endlessly. Jingwan admired him for his meticulous planning. He had made arrangements early. What about his colleagues? Should they admire him for not forgetting to enjoy himself in a dangerous situation? Did he do it well? Not long after Jingwan and the others left, the many officials who had been paying attention to the governor's side courtyard, whether they were really drunk or not, had all sobered up and hurried to the ferry port. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653536. HTML. Click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Biku Pavilion mobile reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 290. As for those officials who didn't know about this matter, when they heard this situation, they didn't dare to have the slightest bit of hesitation. Their hearts almost jumped to their throats. Everyone boarded the ship, freshened up and didn't appear again. None of the officials of Kaiming Fu were able to board. Initially, when Governor Su wanted to follow, he was directly blocked by the dark half. Once again, just like the day when Jingwan and the others arrived at Kaiming Fu, All the officials collectively turned into wooden stakes and stood there as punishment. But right now, their hearts were even more unbearable than that day. At that time, it was anger, impatience, and some uneasiness towards Jin Qinhuang because of the rumor. Now more than 90% of the people were occupied by more than 90% fear. They stood respectfully and reverently, without the slightest bit of impatience. They were so quiet and silent, waiting for the reaction of Jin Qinhuang. But now, it seemed like it was preparing to give them the cold shoulder, like the previous time. The longer they were given the cold shoulder, the more uncertain their hearts were. It was like there was a knife hanging above their heads. If it fell cleanly, whether they were dead or alive, it would immediately be seen. But the longer it was suspended, the deeper the fear in their hearts. That kind of torture was really hard to describe. Until the dawn of the fish belly appeared on the horizon, the ship finally seemed to have some movement. The officials who stood until their backs were sore immediately stood up straight, their bodies stretched taut. But there was still a sense of relaxation that finally came. However, the truth was that they thought too much. Because the person they wanted to see wasn't seen, the mooring rope that fixed the ship was also put away. What was going to happen was an obvious matter. At this moment, the faces of the officials were green and white. It was very wonderful. Could they stop it from leaving? No. Therefore, they could only watch the ship go far away. What kind of person was Jin Qinhuang, the living king of hell? The rumor about him was that he would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Moreover, no matter who it was, they would only seek revenge at the time. They had never heard of settling accounts after autumn. What was the situation now? Could it be that it was over? Thinking about it, they knew that it was absolutely impossible. This kind of matter that wanted his life. If he could just let it go like this, those brothers who were tormented by him until they hovered between life and death should have an opinion. Therefore, it could only be that Jin Qinhuang's anger had soared to the extreme, and he would inevitably return to settle the score. Everyone knew that most of the time, when one was angered on the spot, the consequences might be more serious, but that was it. If he didn't say anything, you wouldn't know what he was going to do. You couldn't help but think about it, comforting yourself in the best way, and scaring yourself in the worst way. That was absolute psychological pressure. For those who didn't know, they only knew that Jin Qinhuang's residence caught fire. And for those who knew, they didn't understand why the matter didn't succeed. It was only because Jin Qinhuang didn't say anything. They didn't have the time to go and understand the specific situation. The main character had already left in a rage, so now they should think of a way to solve the problem. After a brief understanding, almost everyone aimed at Governor Su. The governor's face was gloomy. Shouldn't the governor give me an explanation? Not only did he overstep his authority and meddle in his affairs, but he also spoiled his plan. Governor Su didn't get angry. When this official arrived, Wang Ye's side was almost settled. A light sentence, but it contained too much content. Now you should think carefully about how to explain to Jin Qinhuang and His Majesty. Jin Qinhuang is His Majesty's most beloved son. Don't think that Jin Qinhuang is fine, and this matter can be easily brushed aside. This official will take his leave first. Please do as you wish. Governor Su flicked his sleeves and left. The governor's face became more and more ugly. Seeing the subordinates who followed Governor Su's sworn enemy, he wished he could chop them with a knife. However, they weren't of the same mind as him. Just like Governor Su's subordinates who were close to him, they kept each other in check and balance. So no matter how angry he was, he couldn't directly make a move. Specific situation. In fact, there were some things that everyone was well aware of. Even if they were grasshoppers on two ropes, they were essentially on the same boat as Kaming Fu. If the boat capsized, no one would have a good ending. So he thought that there should still be a tacit understanding. But he didn't expect that the one with the surname Su would actually do such a thing. Although according to what the one with the surname Su said, if he didn't bring anyone, the final result would be the same. But in essence, it was obvious that he had set him up. This was absolutely intolerable. That general faced with the anger of his direct superior, he didn't show any unusual emotions, and narrated the whole story in full detail. What about those daring bandits? As expected, he started to pin the blame on them. They were all executed. Between the bandits and himself, there was no need to consider who to choose. They wanted to assassinate the current prince, they deserved to die. The governor put on a strong front and said, but in his heart he was relieved. Fortunately, the one with the surname Su knew his limits. This official will personally investigate this matter and give Jin Qinhuang and His Majesty an explanation. I am equivalent to an official of Kaming Fu. Causing Jin Qinhuang to be frightened is a great sin. It is reasonable for me to take the initiative to ask for forgiveness from His Majesty. Jingwan and Li Hongyuan took the land route and didn't rush through the night. They found a place and had a good sleep in the latter half of the night. When they woke up in the morning, they were full of energy, and at the same time, they heard the news that their boat had left Kaming Fu. Everything was going according to plan. After a little preparation, they also set out on their journey. Thinking that Luo Peisong might be worried, Jingwan wanted to send a letter with him. Although Li Hongyuan was a little unhappy, he still sent someone. If there was no accident, after Luo Peisong woke up, he would be able to see the letter before he knew what happened at the B courtyard. In terms of speed, the boat was definitely faster than the horse. However, the horse would be limited by physical strength, and the land route would also be limited by the terrain. In comparison, the boat in the canal had a bigger advantage. Thus, the group of people on the canal would be much faster than the group of people on the land. According to the time, if they took the water route, it would take less than 2 days to travel from Kaming Fu to Chongzhou. If they took the land route, it would take about 4 to 5 days. Of course, this was the relatively normal speed. Thus, on the second day, which was the 7th day of the new year, the people on the land route received the news from the water route. As expected, they were attacked. Jingwan looked at the letter that was only a few words and slightly frowned. This is earlier than expected? But isn't there something wrong with these water bandits? The canal connects the north and south, and is very important. There are countless branches and countless ships coming and going. The safety along the way should be very important. Why would there be water bandits? In fact, there have always been water bandits in that area. Among the ships that come and go, they don't dare to touch the relatively large fleets. The smaller private ships usually travel in groups, so there are usually no conflicts. However, those who are familiar with that area will usually pay some silver as payment for passage. Most of the time there is peace. And when something happens, as the saying goes, officials will protect each other. Naturally, there will be collusion between officials and bandits to settle the matter. It is normal that there are no rumors about it. However, judging from the time, something must have happened when they entered that section. Making use of the water bandits is actually the most conventional method, but also the most unconventional method. After all, no matter how bold the water bandits are, they will not easily touch an official's ship, especially my ship. Once they touch it, they must be prepared to be completely wiped out. The water bandits also have their families, and there are many of them, young and old, unless someone promises them a good place to settle them, including household registration and land, to ensure that all of them live a worry-free life in the future, Jingwan continued. There are temptations and there are threats. However, from Li Hongyuan's point of view, it was possible that a third party had made a move and caused an unexpected situation. That's right. If there is a disagreement, I will destroy you. Anyway, it is natural for officials to suppress bandits. Then Yuan wants to release the news that we have been killed. How can such an inauspicious thing be released? Let nature take its course. Whatever news those people get will be what it is. It will be over when we reach Chongzhou Prefecture. Li Hongyuan had always been happy to laugh at other people's anxiousness, especially in this group of people, who had deliberately plotted to kill him. Let's forget about the previous incident. This time, it is really uncertain whether we will live or die. Shouldn't we send a message to His Majesty and my grandparents? As for your grandparents, before they left the capital, I sent someone to inform them. If they hear any bad news, they don't need to pay attention to it and wait for 3 to 5 days. So a certain someone had really arranged it long ago. However, Li Hongyuan only mentioned the Luo family and did not mention Luqingdi. Jingwan also did not mention it. Although he was her father-in-law, it was not a bad thing to let him worry about such a scum. Therefore, Jingwan also threw away all her worries and continued to move forward according to the predetermined route, treating it as a relatively fast journey. Although they did not bring many things, even if they were relatively complete in all aspects, and there was not a single person missing to serve them, it was still not too comfortable. Jingwan pretended to be angry and complained that Li Hongyuan had raised her more and more delicate. Li Hongyuan shamelessly expressed that even if she was a tiger daughter from a general's family, after marriage, she should become more and more delicate in certain areas. Otherwise, it must be that her husband was not good enough, and he was good enough. Then it was normal for his wife to be delicate. Where was his shame? He had eaten it himself 800 years ago. Speaking of which, the number of people in their group was not small. In the mighty group, other than the change in clothes, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan did not appear much. Along the way, they did what they were supposed to do. It had nothing to do with the word low-key, but it did not attract any attention. Of course, it was not unrelated to the fact that they did not pass by any large cities along the way. On the 7th night of the new year, Li Hongyuan, who was sleeping soundly, was softly awakened. Jingwan was sleeping in his arms. He did not move and only asked someone to deliver a letter to the carriage. Granny Gong passed the letter to Li Hongyuan and lit up a small lamp that could only illuminate a small area. Li Hongyuan quickly skimmed through the contents of the letter. Li Hongyuan's expression did not change. There was really a third party. Their entire ship was not ambushed, but openly surrounded by the other party in a relatively open area of the river. The other party's purpose was obviously not to kill, but to capture alive. It could even be said that it was an invitation. And looking at the situation, that was not the case. It seemed that they had been waiting for a long time. The letter was short and did not contain any details. It only roughly said that after weighing the pros and cons, they did not take action but followed them. The other party did not even touch anything on the ship. Instead, they directly sank the ship. After they were taken away, they were not treated rudely. In order to prevent them from knowing the destination, they only closed the cabin. They did not cover their eyes and did not tie their hands and feet. In the end, they entered a hidden water stronghold. They did not look like water bandits. Currently, they had not seen the main character. Therefore, the other party's purpose was not clear. The previous letter was sent when they discovered the abnormality. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, the second letter was sent after nightfall. Li Hongyuan burned the letter without saying a word. He waved his hand and dismissed Mama Gong. He leaned back and continued to sleep as if nothing had happened. Early in the morning of the 8th day of the new year, Li Hongyuan received another message. Jingwan was eating breakfast. When she saw an E send the letter over, she casually asked. Li Hongyuan handed it to her. Because of this, Li Hongyuan drank a jar of vinegar. Because this letter did not come from the water stronghold. It came from Chongzhou Prefecture. It was about the provincial governor of Shannon County, Sun Yilin. Because Jingwan showed a surprised expression, Li Hongyuan saw it and reached out to take the letter. After reading it, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. His eyes were malicious, and he wanted to kill someone. He did stupid things without knowing anything, and made people think that he was affectionate. The key was that he did not stop him, and Wanwan saw it. Sure enough, he should have disappeared completely. That was why there was no chance to make his presence known. In the beginning, Sun Yilin was an official in the internal court. Later, he went west and made a great contribution. Later, someone wanted him to leave the capital. He was willing and left freely. Emperor Luqingdi liked him and treated him as a junior. Seeing that he wanted to contribute to Qi Yuan and could not bear to see him suffer, he appointed him as the provincial governor of Shannon County. He was a 6th-rank official and was responsible for patrolling. Shannon County was one of the 4 counties in Jiangnan. It was rich and prosperous. At least in material terms, he did not have to worry about him suffering. Although the provincial governor could not interfere with the local military and politics, because he was responsible for patrolling, he could directly report to the emperor. Therefore, although his position was not high, it was important enough. In addition, he was backed by Ding General Manor. Even the governor of Shannon County and the provincial governor were polite to him. Sun Yilin had been pampered since he was a child. Although he was not arrogant and had been exposed to many dirty things in Ding General Manor, he was still a master who did not care about sand in his eyes. Moreover, he lived a good life and did not lack money. In terms of beauty, Jingwan was a cinnabar in his heart that could not be erased. No matter how beautiful a woman was, she was just a skeleton in his eyes. Therefore, he seemed to be a little stubborn. It was difficult to please and could not be bought. This was the same as Li Hongyuan. Because of this, Sun Yilin's job had not been very smooth. He had been in office for more than half a year. But he had not even finished visiting the prefectural city of Shannon County, not to mention the counties below. However, after the initial impatience, he gradually settled down. He was not in a hurry to make progress. Step by step, he adapted to the officialdom. Under the premise that he did not change his original intention, he feigned civility with people and adapted to the officialdom. On one hand, he looked on coldly from the sidelines. On the other hand, he gradually changed from passive to active. His whole person was growing rapidly. Except for his feelings for Jingwan, his whole person seemed to not be so pure anymore. When the matter of the college examination was exposed, because the initial source was not in Shannon County, and Sun Yilin himself was not enough to come into contact with those matters, he could only forcibly suppress the impatience in his heart. Then, from the letters in the capital, he found out that the salt policy was also involved. The amount was huge, and he knew the thorny degree of this matter. At one point, he calculated in his heart who would be appointed as the imperial envoy. After he found out that it was Jin Qinhuang and thoroughly investigated the matter, he was instead relieved. After all, he knew the true face of Jin Qinhuang. After thinking carefully in his heart, it seemed that there was no more suitable candidate than Jin Qinhuang. Because even if he secretly needed more money than the other princes, he did not lack it. Therefore, there was no need to start with the salt policy. This time he happened to be in Chongzhou Prefecture. Thinking about it, he should know that it was not that he did not know that Jingwan was traveling with Li Hongyuan. In fact, it was better to not see her. But when he woke up, she was already in Chongzhou Prefecture. It was because after they arrived in Jiangnan, Chongzhou Prefecture was their first stop. If it was in other prefectures, he could not do anything. Since he had already come to this step, it was not good to turn around and go elsewhere. Sun Yilin could only repeatedly remind himself that if he could, it would be good to see her from afar and confirm whether Jin Qinhuang treated her well or not. Yes, that was all. Later, when he found out that they were staying in Kaming Prefecture, he felt disappointed and lost. Although he did not know what Li Hongyuan wanted to do, he was certain that they would definitely come to Jiangnan. But after waiting for a long time, the news that came made his liver and gallbladder almost split apart. First, there was the fire in Kaming Prefecture's side courtyard. After leaving Kaming Prefecture for less than a day, there was another incident. It was said that their whereabouts were unknown, and that they did not know whether they were alive or dead. Sun Yilin pinched the clothes on his chest, as if he wanted to tightly hold his heart that was about to stop beating. He could not sit and wait for death. He had to do something, otherwise he could not guarantee that he would not go crazy. Coming to Shannon Prefecture, no, that was not right. It should be the first time since he was born, the first time he showed absolute power. He requested to immediately send troops to search and rescue. At the same time, he wanted to exterminate the water bandits. Although they did not interact for a long time, but after Sun Yilin arrived at Chongzhou Prefecture, he behaved modestly and courteously, cultured and refined. He had a modest and gentlemanly demeanor, completely unlike a 1,000-year-old aristocratic family. That noble air was unquestionable. After he showed his absolute power, they were first shocked, then they felt that it was natural. However, this kind of matter of sending troops was not something that could be done with words. It required the governor's approval and the signing of a dispatch order. The governor was currently patrolling other places. There was no one in the prefecture capital, How could he send troops? Moreover, if Shannon Prefecture sent troops to Tongzhou Prefecture, it would cross the boundary of two prefectures. It would require the emperor's order, or the left and right governors to sign the dispatch order. If they sent troops privately, it would be against the rules. The relevant personnel would definitely be punished. Therefore, they first expressed their concern for Jin Qinhuang incisively and vividly, expressing that if needed, they would do their best. Then they listed all kinds of difficulties. Moreover, in their hearts, they hoped that Jin Qinhuang would die. In any case, he was not in their territory. If he died, they would not be implicated. Regarding their thoughts, Sun Yilin could not say that he completely understood, but he still had 70%. His heart was cold. These people should have all been cleaned up by Jin Qinhuang. What kind of temperament Jin Qinhuang is, this official is clearer than all the Darren. I am even clearer about his position in the emperor's heart. If Jin Qinhuang really met with a mishap, there is no doubt that no matter if it was Tongzhou Prefecture or Shannon Prefecture, there would not be good fruit to eat. What's more, if Jin Qinhuang met with a mishap because the rescue was too late, the emperor's anger would be even greater. Who could bear it? Could it be more serious than privately dispatching troops? It is true that Jin Qinhuang would seek revenge for the smallest grievance, but he also clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. Saving him, how could there be no benefits? One sentence from him in front of the emperor is better than 100 or 1,000 words from others. In addition, this official is willing to take responsibility for this matter. After this matter, this official will immediately make a statement to the emperor. Even if you suffer a great loss, my Ding Guogong Fu will double the compensation. Sun Yilin had no way to express his concern for Jingwan, so he could only use Jin Qinhuang as an excuse. To be honest, the one he cared about was obviously the person at the top of his heart, but he had to use his love rival as a shield. The bitterness in Sun Yilin's heart was really hard to describe. Those who didn't know would think that he cared a lot about Jin Qinhuang. The officials who understood the situation in the capital couldn't help but mutter a few words in their hearts. Jin Qinhuang didn't stand on any side, but in the end, he was Imperial Concubine Su's adopted son. Imperial Concubine Su and the Empress were sworn enemies. As the Empress's nephew, was it really good to be so worried about Jin Qinhuang? If they suffered a loss, Ding Guogong Fu would compensate. Did your family's elders know? However, thinking about it was just thinking. What Sun Yilin said really moved them. In the salt policy, they did stretch out their hands, but what they received was just a small fraction. It was nothing to worry about. Sending troops to save Jin Qinhuang, regardless of whether they would see him alive or not, as long as they showed this attitude, it was enough to prove their sincerity. No matter how they thought about it, it was a matter of more advantages than disadvantages. After discussing with each other, they nodded. This matter was done. Chongzhou Prefecture's prefectural army was directly sent out 2,000 people. They boarded the warship and followed the canal out of Chongzhou Prefecture, crossed the border between the two prefectures, and entered Tongzhou Prefecture. And Sun Yilin, the provincial governor, also boarded the ship without hesitation and left Shannon Prefecture. Although he tried his best to suppress his worry, the people around him could more or less feel it. They couldn't help but mutter in their hearts, and almost ran in some unspeakable direction. How could Sun Yilin still care about what they were thinking? He only hoped that nothing would happen to Jingwan. How could this kind of situation not make Li Hongyuan furious? Even now he's still thinking about you. Wan, tell me, shouldn't this husband have cut him to death long ago? Should I chop him up and feed him to the dogs? Or should I just let him sink to the bottom of the water and feed him to the fishes? He said darkly. Before they got married, this man had already gone crazy because of Sun Yilin and Chen Jungmin, not to mention now that she basically knew where his minefield was. If she dared to say a word for Sun Yilin, not only Sun Yilin would be out of luck, she also wouldn't be able to escape. But if she didn't say anything, this man would say that she tacitly agreed with him. Perhaps Sun Yilin would really lose his life. Saying it wasn't right, not saying it wasn't right either. Jingwan wanted to curse. As her thoughts turned, Jingwan faintly hooked her lips. Propping up her chin, she calmly looked at Li Hongyuan. Ah Yuan, the one who should be angry should be me. We're the #1 gongzi in the capital, but the only thing that comes out of his mouth is you Jin Qin Wang. My husband is being thought about by another man he. Jingwan silently apologized to Sun Yilin in her heart. For the sake of everyone, you should temporarily take the blame for this. Probably because he didn't think that Jingwan would say this. Li Hongyuan was stunned for a moment. His anger and hostility dissipated a little, and he hooked his lips with a bit of wickedness. Wan, do you think so? Wan should be clear on how to deal with people who have designs on your husband. To a woman, you still have tender feelings for the fairer sex and are soft-hearted. This man shouldn't be like this, right? This husband looks forward to your performance. As the saying goes, when the virtue is 1 foot high, the devil is 10 feet high. Jingwan still couldn't beat him. It wasn't the first time that she lifted a stone to smash her own foot, but it was still better than him killing people. However, Jingwan's expression didn't change. A yuan means for me to go see him and personally deal with him. Wan's thinking is quite beautiful, but if you can stab him in the heart, I can bear it once. I'm sorry I'm timid. So, why don't we both not see him and forget about it? So the last is the most important. Li Hongyuan's hostility soared again. Jingwan didn't care if there were outsiders around, and hurriedly rushed over to hug him. A yuan, we're fine. Can you not talk about others? She buried her face in his neck. I'm yours and only yours. No matter what others think or do, this won't change. So can you. If you know that another woman thinks about your husband all day long, that woman used to be your husband's fiancée, and that she rushed to the front when your husband was in trouble, as if she was the one who cared about your husband the most in the world. Tell me, Wan, how do you feel? Li Hongyuan pinched Jingwan's chin and asked coldly. Jingwan's face darkened. Damn, this trick of putting herself in his shoes was really too powerful. Jingwan was speechless. However, after a moment, Jingwan still expressed her opinion. Although I'm very unhappy, the other party didn't do anything disgusting, and I don't want her life. If it were me, I would show off my love in front of her and make her retreat. Good idea. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653539. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile edition reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 291. Good idea. Hearing Li Hongyuan's 3 words full of interest, Jingwan's little heart trembled. What the hell was showing off affection? She definitely didn't mean that. She was probably just standing in her own position, and didn't think much before speaking. If she showed off, it would at most be a vague expression. If she let this bastard show off, Jingwan simply couldn't imagine how immoral that scene would be. It would definitely be used as a negative example by secular dogma. If it was seen by those old pedantic people, they would not care about your identity and criticize you. Well, this bastard still had some sense of propriety. How could he let others see such a private thing? But if he really met Sun Yilin, to be honest, it was originally a one-sided love. The person he loved was still intimately with another person in front of him. How painful would it be in his heart? If the love was lighter, he might be able to let it go after being stimulated like this. But what if it was bitter love? That was definitely like using a blunt knife to slash at the heart. It was torturous, and was undoubtedly an unprecedented form of torture. For a person who endured and restrained his feelings, tried his best not to cause trouble to others, and had no malicious intentions, wasn't this kind of behavior a bit cruel? Jingwan didn't know how deep Sun Yilin's feelings for her were. Judging from his attitude, it was probably not shallow. Jingwan herself didn't like to bear such a one-sided love. If she deliberately hurt the other party, she wouldn't feel good in her heart. This was definitely not what she wanted. Jingwan simply wanted to cry but had no tears. She knew what kind of virtue this bastard had. Why didn't he speak well and still think about it? Sure enough, it was because of trust that he blurted out what he couldn't say. This was undoubtedly a trap for Sun Yilin. Most likely, Chen Jingmin would also be added. Wasn't this a trap for herself? Moreover, this person, if too much stimulation, may do irrational things, commonly known as evil. Who would want to see such a situation? Yuan, how about we make a deal? King Yu, Wan and I are in love, and we don't want others to know. Is our love something that can't be seen? Li Hongyuan said faintly as he gently rubbed Jingwan's back. Jingwan's scalp was numb. She didn't know whether Sun Yilin would turn evil or not. She only knew that this second in front of her could make him go crazy. If she folded her waist, this matter would be over. She was willing to risk it, but obviously, it wouldn't be over so easily. If she really gave up land and paid compensation to him for Sun Yilin, not only would this fire not be extinguished, but it would also burn more and more. She had never thought that there would be a day when she would court death herself. Jingwan leaned on his shoulder and pretended to be dead. I didn't say anything. Anyway, they were together almost every day and night. Instead of avoiding meeting Sun Yilin, she just had to keep an eye on him. Jingwan had no choice but to admit defeat once again. If it was anything else, she might be able to ride roughshod over him. But when it came to matters like this, if she were to be tough, the result would definitely be disastrous. The people who would be affected would definitely not be just one or two people. Taking a step back could resolve the crisis, and even save their lives. She wouldn't suffer any losses either, so why not? This bastard was so unscrupulous, because he knew this point of hers. Knowing this, she couldn't change it. It was a dead knot. In fact, the only breakthrough in this matter was Sun Yilin. That was, he would find his true love, and take back all the feelings he had invested in her. Then everything would be fine. However, this kind of thing was easy to say and difficult to say. It was easy to say that the right person would appear at the right time, but it was difficult to say that this person might not appear for the rest of her life. Otherwise, whoever had the water of forgetfulness could give her a dozen, and make Sun Yilin drink it all. Li Hongyuan didn't say anything else. He quietly hugged Jingwan and let her eat more. Probably only he himself knew what he was thinking. When it was time to set off, Li Hongyuan told Jingwan that their route had changed. They didn't go directly to Chongzhou Prefecture, but to the water bandits' stronghold. He explained the ins and outs of the matter. Originally, according to the plan, when the people on the waterway were attacked, they would abandon the boat and counterattack. They would basically be fine. Then, they would wait at the place designated by Li Hongyuan. When the people on the land arrived, the matter of Li Hongyuan, having an extra doppelganger, could be simply erased. Some things could continue to be hidden, and they could continue to maintain a lower level of vigilance towards Li Hongyuan. But now, that group of people had entered someone else's territory. If he directly appeared in Chongzhou Prefecture, some things would be in vain. Moreover, there was a 90% chance that he would be sent back by Emperor Li Qingdi's imperial edict. From then on, he would withdraw all his favor and maintain a high level of vigilance. He might even dig up all the past matters and directly push Li Hongyuan to the bottom of the valley. Li Hongyuan himself didn't care. At most, some things would be brought forward. But his sweetheart, this time, how could it not be because of Jingwan that they split into two groups? Li Hongyuan didn't want her to be associated with any danger. If Jingwan wasn't by his side, he would certainly have personally gone into battle. A white blade in, a red blade out. Just thinking about it made him excited. Ever since he married Jingwan, his entire person had indeed become much more peaceful. Furthermore, the target of those water bandits was clearly him. Using such a method to invite people made him both interested and angry. Who is the other party? Isn't it said that officials and bandits are colluding? Looking at the current situation, it didn't seem like the case. It can be true that officials and bandits are colluding. When one side doesn't want to play, they can disband. However, looking at the current situation, not many people know the true situation. Besides, if they can collude on the surface, they can also feign compliance in secret. As for who it is in the entire Jiangnan, other than those in the officialdom, Who else does Wan think would plot against me? With this reminder, Jingwan immediately thought of a possibility. The Pei family? Who knows? Perhaps the bandit leader is extremely daring and suddenly has a greedy idea. He wants to use this prince to ask for money from the imperial court. Originally, Jingwan was still worried that it wouldn't be good to just go to the water bandit's lair. After all, it was dangerous. In the end, it was downplayed like it was just a vacation. Li Hongyuan stroked Jingwan's hair. The last possibility is too small. If they really have this idea, the nearest Chongzhou prefecture has already received the exact news. So this matter isn't dangerous. There are some things that I have to deal with myself. A substitute won't do. Jingwan nodded. If it's really the Pei family, you do have to deal with it yourself. However, the Pei family is known as the wealthiest family in Jiangnan. In fact, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they are the wealthiest family in the entire Qi Yuan. Don't they feel that they are degrading themselves by colluding with these water bandits? Can an aristocratic family survive just based on their loftiness alone? What is the foundation? Cultural foundation is only a small part of it. Antiques, expensive calligraphy and paintings, all kinds of things that are called elegant. One or two of them may be obtained by relying on one's reputation, but tens of thousands of them, in the end, still rely on money as the foundation. Whether it is to cultivate famous scholars or noble ladies, the word money is indispensable. Moreover, it is quite expensive. Although most of the people who are cultivated by this thing regard money as dung and feel that it stinks of money, if they really run out of money, they can still be free and aloof, and it can be said that they are worse than beggars. Jingwan actually had a deep understanding of Li Hongyuan's words. However, if one were to say that in the entire Qi Yuan, no one would dare to say that they were the second in number of men who were piled up by mountains of gold and silver. Jingwan was quite surprised to hear these words coming from his mouth. You, Wan, what do you want to say? You can speak frankly. Li Hongyuan was never worried that Jingwan would suspect anything. He basically didn't hide anything in front of her. In his opinion, it was just a matter of time before she found out or exposed him. Are you talking about yourself, Fa Yuan? You're sleeping on a mountain of gold and silver, yet you still complain that it's uncomfortable. Jingwan raised her eyebrows leisurely. It's slightly different. I know very well where I stand. I also admit that many people in aristocratic families can't see clearly. They think that food and clothing fall from the sky. Therefore, since there are people who are wantonly squandering like this, there naturally has to be someone who manages it. I suddenly admire the head of the Pei family from the bottom of my heart. That's right. People like bandits could be said to be lowly people, but they could still lower their status to come into contact with them. This kind of person was truly adaptable and was quite terrifying. To a certain extent, he is also your grandfather. Jingwan was slightly stunned. Indeed, the head of the Pei family was Li Hongyuan's grandfather in terms of bloodline. She was his wife, so naturally she took after him. Speaking of which, in ordinary families, even if it was a high-ranking official or a noble, only the family of the wife was considered the official family of all the children. This included the children of concubines. If the family of a concubine recognized the family of a concubine as the official family, it was not appropriate, and there were no rules and etiquette. The only exception was the royal family. The family of a prince was based on the family of his birth mother or adoptive mother, and not the family of the empress. If it's really him, and the Pei family is plotting something against you, will Yuan agree to it? The biggest plot of the Pei family is nothing more than to return to the imperial court. Although Qi Yuan is going downhill, it hasn't reached the point where it can be overthrown. No matter how much the Pei family is working hard, they don't have a strong power. They rely on their connections to maintain their superior status. In a short period of time, they can still occupy a dominant position. After a long time, they are bound to become a vassal. The Pei family can no longer maintain their rightful position. It's inevitable that they are anxious. If they want to use me, they have to first see my mood, and then see what bargaining chips they have. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/66535551 HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com mobile edition. Chapter 292. Jingwan saw that he had a card up his sleeve. Originally, he had brought her to avoid the ship, but now, he was going to meet it directly. Thinking that there was indeed no danger, she felt relieved, although it was a change of route. But to Jingwan, who was completely unfamiliar with the route, it was actually not a bad thing. Just like that, another day passed. Jingwan saw the big ship that Li Hongyuan had mentioned. It was not inferior to the official ship that they had been on previously. Just from the appearance alone, it was better. As for the things inside, it was needless to say. Li Hongyuan said that most of the things that they had brought with them had been transferred. And that was really the case. From this point, it was enough to see that Li Hongyuan's manpower was absolutely beyond expectations. And it was under the noses of so many people. Of course, the current location of the big ship was not the original location, nor was it at any of the ferry ports. It was not difficult to get up there, because this was not just a big ship, but an entire fleet. The entire fleet was a private ship that had nothing to do, and it was enough to make the merchant ships gnash their teeth. They had painstakingly filled the entire ship with goods, and wished that there was not even a place to step on. But you dragged it out for a leisurely stroll. This was the typical style of a rich young master, doing nothing and enjoying everything. How could it not be hated? Therefore, along the way, this fleet of ships made many people angry, and they simply wished that they could burn the ship directly. Naturally, Li Hongyuan did not care about what others thought. After boarding the ship, they continued to travel along the canal, and after about 4 hours, they arrived at the predetermined destination. The river was indeed very wide, and it seemed that somewhere nearby, there should be another branch that happened to converge. However, other than the main river, the surrounding area was covered with aquatic plants, and further away, there were large patches of reeds. To be honest, this place really had the geographical advantage. However, in this way, how could they find the whereabouts of the other party? Other than the upper and lower reaches of the main river, it could be in any direction. Just when Jingwan was so confused, she saw an eagle come out from the dark. It wasn't big, had a golden beak and claws and shiny black feathers, but it looked very spirited. It stood on An Yi's arm, and turned its head from time to time, and he fed it a piece of raw meat. Then it shook its arm gently, spread its wings, and flew up. Jingwan watched as it circled above her head once more before flying off in a certain direction. Then the entire fleet headed in that direction. Jingwan looked at it curiously. She didn't know what breed this eagle was, but it was the first time she knew that an eagle also had this ability. Li Hongyuan stood next to Jingwan. Seeing that she was looking at it curiously, he gave her a little science lesson. Jingwan basically didn't understand the professional things. The part she understood could be summed up in 2 words: a messenger eagle. It required a considerable amount of training, and the success rate was very low. However, as long as the training was successful, it was very easy to use. Its speed was fast, and there was basically no sound when it took off and landed. The most important point was that it knew how to conceal itself, which sounded very high and mighty. The one on top of her head had already followed Li Hongyuan for 3 years. Pigeons were located by sensing magnetic fields, and eagles were also based on the same principle. She had never heard of it before. Why did she feel that it was a bit unscientific? Well, a lot of things were unscientific. For example, her existence. I only know about messenger pigeons, Jingwan said. Messenger pigeons are indeed more commonly used, but it's not very safe to use them. That's right, the things that Li Hongyuan did were basically done through secret channels. How could there be pigeons flying around Jin Wangfu all day long? It was hard not to attract attention. Her own husband said that this eagle's speed was very fast, but because Jingwan deliberately paid attention, there was always a fist-sized shadow above her head. Was this to coordinate with their speed? Along the way, the river gradually narrowed. Seeing that the largest boat could no longer continue forward, Li Hongyuan did not hesitate to order a change of boats. And this time, they all changed to the smallest boats. However, this way, it seemed that it was a bit insufficient. Then, Jingwan found that she was thinking too much. It turned out that under each boat, there was a hidden warehouse. Piled inside were all small boats. It was simply like an emergency lifeboat. To tell the truth, Jingwan was more or less shocked. Humans, no matter what period, could not be underestimated. Who knew when there would be an industrial revolution? The small boats were very small, more or less the type of one-leaf boat. Each boat could basically only accommodate 6 to 8 people. Li Hongyuan did not bring Jingwan onto other boats. Instead, he directly boarded the small boat. Holding hands, they stood on the boat. Behind them, other than the two who rowed the boat, there was only an Yi and Li Suyen. That's right, Li Suyen had been following them, including the more than 50 black-clothed guards he brought. To the outside, it was clearly hidden well, but everything was exposed under the eyes of the eagle and hound on the throne. Was there really no problem? Jingwan even suspected that this Li Suyen was also one of this man's subordinates. Li Hongyuan's answer was not. He was very certain, and did not hesitate at all. Then why? Li Hongyuan just smiled, and did not say anything. He only said that Li Suyen was a bit interesting, and did not say anything else. Jingwan gave him a supercilious look, and did not ask any more questions. The boat that Li Hongyuan and Jingwan were on was in the middle position. Their left, right, and back were occupied by the other boats. Compared to the other boats, the boats were at the outermost periphery, moving forward in such a grandiose manner. To be honest, with such a formation, if the water bandits were somewhere nearby, there was no way they wouldn't notice them. This was clearly telling the other party that there were guests at their door. Moreover, with one look, it was obvious that they were not good people. After half an hour, Jingwan and the others actually sailed into a lake. Although it was not very big, this was not the main point. The main point was that there were big and small boats on the surface of the water. There were small boats like theirs, but they looked much worse. There were also many boats with canopies. The one that looked most magnificent was just a house on top. Although the people on those boats were not as well trained as Li Hongyuan's people, they were all holding weapons and waiting solemnly. They had not seen the situation on Li Hongyuan's side clearly, but they had already used their thousandly eyes to see the other side thoroughly. They were getting closer and closer. Perhaps they finally saw the faces of the two most conspicuous people. One after another, they were shocked. When they were only a few zhang away, Li Hongyuan finally raised his hand, and the fleet stopped. Li Hongyuan looked at the other indifferently. You have some guts. Jin Qinwang. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653552. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 293. Jin Qinwang. Your eyes can't be considered blind. Li Hongyuan's expression did not change, his tone did not change, but there was a kind of coldness and arrogance. Moreover, it was condescending, high and mighty. Even if they only had half the number of people, he completely did not put them in his eyes. This was not deliberately brought out, but more like he was born this way. He had this kind of capital. Although it was very infuriating, it seemed that there was nothing much to say. As long as they were not stupid, they should more or less know what was going on. Originally, they thought that things would go smoothly, but now it seemed that it was actually a joke. The main character not only knew that they were the ones who invited people, but also swaggered to their door. That's right, they were not waiting for them to welcome them. They had reason to believe that if they did not find out in advance that they were standing at the doorstep, these people would have directly barged into the inner residence. This more or less made them break out in cold sweat. If these people were to annihilate their officers and soldiers, then they would be completely annihilated. They had always thought that they hid it very well. It was just that this person was really unexpected. However, because of this, their own nest should not be in any danger? Well, this was probably temporary. It was hard to predict what would happen in the future. After all, Jin Qinhuang's temperament was mostly heard. But from the body double, it should be able to reflect a bit. As a body double, it was natural to learn from the body double. Therefore, the original owner was definitely better than the body double. In fact, with just a face-to-face meeting, this feeling was already incomparably clear. When they saw that substitute, they had a kind of feeling that he was indeed worthy of being the son of the emperor. Even if he was notorious, it was still difficult to conceal his magnificent bearing. However, when they saw the main character, suddenly it was a second-rate good. Compared to the original product, it was definitely not just a grade lower. Therefore, on the 5th night of the new year, Jin Qinhuang used the special environment at that time to not give Governor Su of Kaimingfu a chance to come into contact with him directly. That was why it did not arouse suspicion. If it was slightly closer, in front of people like Governor Su, it would inevitably be exposed. Li Hongyuan, this person, even if one understood everything about him, it was impossible to completely imitate him. At most, it would be similar in appearance and spirit. That would be a joke. Anyone who was familiar with him, as well as those who had slightly interacted with him, would be able to see through him in seconds. After confirming the identity of Li Hongyuan, the leader had already sent someone back to report that the real person was here. Naturally, whatever the other side said was useless. However, the current situation was a little tricky. Previously, they still held the initiative, but now it was completely different. And in the water stronghold, the scholarly old man who was talking amiably with Jin Qinhuang seemed to be an old acquaintance who had known each other for many years. Even if the other party remained silent, or even treated him with indifference, his expression did not change. However, a youth hurriedly came in and whispered a few words into the old man's ear. His face suddenly changed as he turned back to look at Jin Qinhuang. Not Jin Qinhuang? Since the person who was chosen to occasionally make a guest appearance in the house was naturally not stupid. Naturally, he could instantly guess what might have happened. Most likely, the master had come to find him. Jin Qinhuang sneered. Who told you that I am? A trace of emotion flashed past the old man's eyes, and then it returned to calmness. That's right. They had never directly sought confirmation, but naturally assumed that he was. The result, was it considered as being played by someone? That was also because they were the ones who went up. Who could they blame? However, the real person himself had come to find him, so it was not considered a failure. It was just that the advantage that they had built before was completely overturned. On the contrary, the person who invited the other party still needed to give the other party an explanation. After all, to be able to make a substitute, one would know that there might be some kind of plan. Now that they had interfered, who knew what the consequences would be? If it was himself, no matter whether there were serious consequences or not, his heart would probably not be happy. Since your master has come, I think you should also go and greet him. The old man stroked his beard. Go together? Jin Qinhuang did not say a word, directly got up and walked outside. Of course, from the moment he entered here, he had never been made difficult. At this time, he made a secret signal, and their original people quickly appeared one after another. Perhaps through the secret signal, they had already understood something. The originally seemingly ordinary people, one by one, revealed an extraordinary imposing manner, including the woman with Jingwan's face, including those several servant girls, including the crowd of odd job workers. They were all like swords, hiding their sharpness. The old man who followed them out was secretly shocked. These people, no matter how he looked at them, were not the role of ordinary imperial guards. Yu Zhongqing heard the movement, and was the last one to appear. What happened? Master has arrived. Jin Qinhuang was concise and comprehensive. Yu Zhongqing lightly frowned. How can Wang Ye put himself in danger? Obviously, he did not approve of such behavior. Jin Qinhuang looked back. Someone claims to be Master's maternal grandfather, the head of Jiangnan's #1 family, the Pei clan. Yu Zhongqing's eyes flashed with surprise. The head of a clan, before the matter is confirmed, he easily revealed his identity, and in this kind of place it is very suspicious. The old man's face was a bit green. This time, it was indeed his mistake, and it almost caused very serious consequences. In the end, it was still Pei clan's current situation that was not optimistic. He was too anxious. However, he really did not think that his good grandson would play this trick. The one who was fooled was far from the only one. But thinking about this now was superfluous. The advantage did not exist, he should think of a way to regain it. However, this grandson seemed to be more capable than the rumors. This was a double-edged sword, weakening his own advantage, but it also meant that he had more value. What value? It was naturally the value of being used. The old man went out, and there were so many people who looked quite dangerous. Many people were not at ease following, not to mention those attendants. Li Hongyuan had never been a good-tempered person. Now that he was waiting for people, the surrounding temperature seemed to be whizzing down. That gaze, it seemed that just looking at you made him tremble uncontrollably. Even those who thought that they had experienced great winds and waves, at this moment, could not stop their scalp from tingling and their hands from sweating. The head of the clan is here. The people who were still waiting solemnly quickly separated, only to see a large number of small boats arrive. The leading boat was quite similar to Li Hongyuan's boat. Only the people standing on it, when they saw Li Hongyuan, were directly stunned. He did not look like a head of the clan who held great power. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/66535554. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website bicken.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.